Legend has it that the Night Witch, who could grant any wish, was reincarnated as the emperor's only daughter, Princess Sia. However, her mother passed away right after her birth. The emperor chose to ignore the young life, keeping her under house arrest in the palace. 9 years passed in the blink of an eye. Sia stared blankly out the window. The only one by her side was Bella, her maid, who brought afternoon tea. Your Highness, it's time for snacks. But the country was currently at war, and food was scarce. As a princess, Sia felt she should lead by example and ration her food. Bella was deeply moved. The princess is only 9 years old, yet she already shows such royal grace. When His Majesty returns from the front lines, he will surely be proud of you. Sia, however, sneered inwardly. She was just a princess with a royal name and nothing more, imprisoned in this cold palace. For 9 whole years, she had barely even seen her father, the emperor. The war had already lasted for 3 years. If she still had her magic, she could have ended it all by herself. Thinking back on how this life began, Sia was completely baffled. How did the former Night Witch lose her magic and become an imperial princess with only a single maid to depend on? The rain outside grew heavier. Bella brought a blanket and wrapped it around Sia. Sia looked out the window once more. The clouds were thick, and the rain was pouring down. It hadn't been this stormy in a long time. Suddenly, a clap of thunder erupted. A bolt of lightning like a silver snake pierced the sky. Sia instinctively sensed something was wrong. What was that just now? Just then, hurried footsteps echoed outside. A man burst in, looking panicked. Princess, this is bad. His Majesty has fallen in battle. The news meant 9-year-old Sia was now an orphan. However, at that very moment, her lost magic had miraculously returned. From the man's words, Sia learned that the war had been won. But in the final battle, the emperor had died on the field. What is your name? The man was taken aback. He quickly gave her his name. The young princess before him didn't cry or show fear at the emperor's death. Instead, she approached him with calm composure. You've forgotten one thing: to barge into a princess's room without permission. Whose rules are you following? Sia's questioning carried a faint pressure. The man immediately knelt to apologize. Even if I'm a captive princess, you cannot disregard me like this. With that, she walked straight out of the palace. Now that the emperor was dead, the heir to the throne had yet to be decided. As the emperor's only bloodline, why shouldn't she inherit the throne herself? Inside the hall, the ministers were arguing fiercely over the emperor's passing. Someone suggested finding a distant relative to take the throne, but when the emperor first ascended, he had already wiped out all collateral bloodlines. As the dispute reached its peak, a loud bang broke the chaos. The doors were shattered by a surge of power. A small figure emerged through the dust and haze. Why search elsewhere? I am standing right here, watching the girl suddenly appear and seat herself upon the throne. The ministers were in shock. Where did this child come from? How dare she sit there? But then, they noticed Sia's long silver hair, her blood-red eyes, and that chilling gaze. She looked exactly like His Majesty. Only then did they realize the girl was Princess Sia. Suddenly, a man stepped forward to object. How can a woman be emperor, especially a captive, and a princess in name only? Sia's gaze swept over them coldly. Which family are you from? Her tone was flat, yet it carried an irresistible authority. The crowd was stunned. Is this princess really only 9? I am Arkimale, of the Palga family. Sia let out a disdainful laugh. Is this the best our empire's ministers can do? Sia flashed a cunning smile far beyond her years. That look and confidence, it made the ministers feel as if they were seeing the emperor. I may be a captive princess, but I am the sole bloodline of the imperial family. Or would you prefer to install a puppet emperor? The Marquis looked mortified. He had no choice but to stay quiet. Then, another man bowed respectfully to Sia. Duke Arnold Herduff sends his greetings to your highness. We do not doubt your identity, but rather, we worry about your capabilities. The throne carries a heavy burden. If you wish to take this seat, you must prove you can resolve the national crisis. Sia smiled faintly. What's so difficult about that? She reached out. A dazzling light erupted from her fingertips. At the same time, the Duke's body began to levitate. See it for yourself with your own eyes. Then come back and tell the others. And then, the two vanished into thin air before everyone's eyes. The ministers looked at each other, utterly horrified. They had never seen such rapid teleportation. Magic? Is the princess a genius? Just like His Majesty in his youth, she was showing incredible talent. Only Bella stared at the spot where Sia vanished, fearful for her safety. When they reappeared, they were at the imperial border, a village ravaged by the flames of war. Ruined walls and smoke were everywhere. The people were displaced and destitute. She looked around at her surroundings, grabbed a handful of dust, and channeled her magic. In a heartbeat, the wounded were instantly healed, and the collapsed buildings were restored. The once scarce food became so abundant, it was endless. Everyone watched in stunned silence. The girl, shrouded in a golden aura, looked like a literal goddess. This was the miracle Sia had created. Sia and the Duke soon returned to the palace, hearing that she had rebuilt the border village. The crowd cried out that it was impossible. The Duke, who had witnessed it all, explained, "It's all true." Her Highness simply waved her hand, and everything was restored. Sia spoke to the ministers, who remained skeptical. "I don't expect your immediate approval, but I will earn your absolute respect." Sia and Bella left the council chamber. Bella's mind drifted back 9 years. The little princess, who should have been born with everyone's blessings, had started her life with the loss of her mother, the coldness of her father, and the grievances of the citizens. Looking at the fragile infant in swaddling clothes, Bella's heart ached for her innocent suffering. Bella decided then to protect Sia for the rest of her life. Spending 9 years together, side by side, made Bella believe she knew Sia best. However, today Sia felt like a complete stranger. She even wondered if someone was impersonating the princess, or if Sia had been hiding her power all along. Suddenly, her hand was taken. The little princess smiled at her with her usual warmth. Only then did Bella realize that her worries were in vain. Watching the sunlight after the storm, Bella smiled. It didn't matter what kind of person Sia was. She would stay by her side forever. Ever since Sia demonstrated her extraordinary power, many were willing to submit to her. They took the initiative to repair her dilapidated palace. Sia finally began to receive a formal, royal education, learning alongside the coursework of her past lives. Sia was kept busy beyond belief, but since she was the Night Witch after all, none of this was a challenge for her. At that moment, Siddharth arrived to report to Sia, looking at this man, who had served as the tyrant's aide for 7 years. She couldn't help but admire his competence. I have followed your orders to keep the news of His Majesty's death a secret. Sia did this to stabilize the imperial power. The funeral would be delayed as long as possible. She needed time to solidify her position. Just then, another man, long-haired and wearing glasses, suddenly appeared. This was Sia's magic tutor, Debian, usually a chronic latecomer. He surprisingly arrived on time today. He pulled out a stack of papers and said with a beaming smile, "These are magic formulas that scholars and mages haven't solved for years. Would your highness like to give them a try?" With just one glance, Sia knew Debian was using her as free labor again. "You've never actually taught me anything, yet you used tutoring as an excuse to come here every day for free food and drinks." She spoke while setting the papers ablaze. Debian let out a wail, but then produced a stack of copies. "I know you too well, so I prepared duplicates in advance. Given my sincere attitude, please, just solve them quickly." Sia had no choice but to start calculating. They then discussed the cause of the emperor's death. For one of the world's most powerful sword masters to die on the battlefield, it felt extremely suspicious. "I heard the enemy king used black magic, right?" "According to my sources, when His Majesty was dueling the enemy king, a massive surge of black magic struck him. Then, a widespread explosion occurred. Nothing was left of where His Majesty stood. Even after a search party combed every inch of the area, they found absolutely nothing. He could only be declared dead on the spot." Sia fell into deep thought. Even if the emperor was a swordmaster, he was still only human. The survival rate after being tainted by black magic is nearly zero. After a long day, it was finally time to rest. But Sia tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Since she had decided to become emperor, she wanted to do something real for the people. She picked up a file from the desk, which documented a series of child disappearances. The case seemed ordinary, yet it gave Sia a lingering sense of unease. Sia summoned a portal. In a flash, she arrived at the village where the disappearances occurred. It was a pitch-black, silent night. A sphere of mana gathered in Sia's hand. With a light flick of her wrist, countless ribbons of light darted through the alleys. Soon, the light led toward a deep forest outside the village, pointing directly to a heavily guarded building. As the light ventured deeper, Sia saw several children locked in a basement cell. Found them. As the portal opened once more, Sia appeared right before the children's eyes. One child stared in awe. "Are you an angel?" "Quiet. I'm getting you out of here." Sia looked around, realizing there were far more children than the 6 on her list. It seemed the kidnappers hadn't stopped. Were they planning to sell these kids into slavery? Sia used her magic to unlock the cell door. Unexpectedly, the noise drew the kidnappers' attention. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" Sia didn't feel like wasting words. With a simple snap of her fingers, the kidnappers were pinned to the floor by her mana. Sia turned to the children, but found them still huddled in place. "Why aren't you going home? We don't know the way." Sia thought for a moment, then teleported them all outside. She used her magic to light up floating directional signs above their heads. "Follow these. They'll lead you safely home." News of the princess cracking the child kidnapping case soon reached the ministers. By personally resolving a national crisis, Sia earned the unanimous praise of the ministers, led by the duke. They recognized her right to inherit the throne. The emperor had passed away. It was time for a new son to rise over the empire. But Sia didn't stop there. She began interrogating the kidnappers. "Is your mastermind linked to illegal slave traders?" The kidnappers played dumb, refusing to talk. Sia's expression went cold. "I'm asking you personally to give you one last chance. If you don't cooperate, I have plenty of ways to make you speak." The kidnappers' faces paled, yet they kept their lips sealed. If they leaked anything, what awaited them was a punishment far worse than death. "You have no idea how cruel that woman is." Right after saying that, one kidnapper suddenly coughed up blood. Sia narrowed her eyes, a meaningful smile playing on her lips. Things are getting interesting. To smoke out the mastermind, Sia decided to take action again. She used her magic to transform into an elegant adult woman, blending into the bustling streets. Based on clues extracted from the kidnapper's memories, an illegal slave auction was being held in the basement of a casino. That woman should be there. Just then, a passing man accidentally bumped into Sia. In that instant, Sia sensed the trace of black magic on him, but it was unrelated to tonight's mission, so she had to let it go. The casino was heavily guarded, but it was a piece of cake for Sia. Overhearing some gamblers nearby, she learned that a gold ticket was the entry pass for the auction. With a wave of her hand, Sia manifested a gold bar. She handed it to the staff and had them lead the way. Passing through winding secret passages, she finally arrived at the auction site. The place was magnificent, yet it reeked of a nauseating, decadent stench. Sia concealed her form to investigate the hall in silence. Every item here was worth a fortune, and the bidders were all the rich and powerful. There were even items from the imperial family. Just then, a woman's voice caught Sia's attention. "I'm so sorry, Count. The ones preparing the children were caught by the imperial guard. But don't be angry. My brother has prepared another surprise for you." The woman produced a small vial of purple liquid. The Count's eyes immediately lit up. "Just what does your brother do? How can he bring in such valuable items every month?" The woman only smiled without answering. Once they left, Sia picked up the vial to examine it closely. This was actually a forbidden potion only a black mage could create. Black magic itself is a power that consumes life and souls, and this potion was its ultimate masterpiece. Only the most elite black mages could produce such a thing. It seemed things were more complicated than she thought. As the auction began, a red-haired woman named Kira presented the first item. It was a magnificent ruby. Sia recognized it instantly. Wasn't that the national treasure of the Lorette Kingdom? Though only a small, insignificant nation, putting a country's national treasure up for auction was absolutely insane. The guests began bidding, and the atmosphere grew heated. Just as the price reached its peak, the one here to arrest illegal auctioneers, of course. The crowd realized Sia was from the imperial family and immediately panicked, scattering in fear. But Sia had already sealed the exits with her magic. It was too late to run. The Count, losing his temper, rushed forward, snatched the arrest warrant, and roared, pointing at Sia's face. "Where did this brat come from? Daring to impersonate the palace to cause trouble? Do you think I don't know the emperor is dead? There's no one left who can stamp the imperial seal on this warrant." Sia didn't argue. She simply reached for her cloak and slowly revealed her long silver hair, the mark of royal blood. Seeing this, the Count collapsed to the floor. There is still someone who can use the imperial seal. By the time Sia finished and returned to the palace, she was immediately pulled into a tight hug by Bella. "Your Highness, where have you been?" Sia hadn't expected that sneaking out would be discovered by Bella. "I was just out catching illegal auctioneers." Bella told Sia that she had been feeling deeply uneasy lately. Sia thought something had happened to her. "Did someone bully you?" "It was a certain someone I've served for 9 years, who went to a dangerous place, all alone, without any guards." Knowing she was in the wrong, Sia promised to always let Bella know before going out. As soon as Sia entered the study, she saw Siddharth, the aide, waiting for her. He told Sia that the ministers were in the council chamber, waiting to discuss something important. Sia immediately guessed. It was about the coronation ceremony. After all, her recent performance was clear for all to see. "So, Siddharth, will you follow me?" Since the emperor's death, Siddharth had followed Sia's orders, without a single complaint. But Sia had no way of knowing if his loyalty was true, as he was, after all, a man chosen by the emperor. Siddharth dropped to one knee without hesitation and swore a solemn oath. "My life's sole mission is to serve the son of the empire without reservation." Sia smiled. "You truly haven't disappointed me." She told Siddharth that there was a mole in the palace, leaking internal affairs everywhere. She ordered him to find the traitor. While she headed to the council chamber, the ministers stood and bowed as Sia arrived. The Duke, acting as their representative, stepped forward. "Your Highness, we are ready to support you as our new sovereign." This was exactly as Sia had expected. Then let the coronation preparations begin. On the eve of the event, Bella dressed Sia as usual. Sia looked at the maid who had been with her for 9 years, her heart filled with emotion. When everyone else had abandoned her, it was Bella who had always protected her. Sia now saw her as her only true family. "Bella, I am about to become the emperor. Your Highness, walk the path you desire. I will always be by your side." On the day of the coronation, Sia made a promise to Bella. "From this day on, I will make sure you live a truly happy life. Being able to serve you is already my greatest happiness." As Sia slowly walked into the grand hall, the dark shadows of her past 9 years finally met the light. Everyone knelt before Sia, the one who was about to become the most noble person in the empire. The crown, the symbol of supreme power, was about to be placed upon her head. A servant of God, carrying out God's will, presents this imperial symbol to the new son. But at that very moment, the massive doors were blown open with immense force. A towering figure stepped forward slowly, his voice low and commanding. "During my brief absence, who dared to covet my throne?" The emperor had returned. Everyone in the room was paralyzed with shock. Sia stood up slowly. "So it's you, father? Nice to meet you. I am Alicia." However, The emperor ignored her completely, merely ordering his men to take her away. Sia didn't seem to care at all, even flashing a deliberately provocative smile. The emperor's gaze suddenly sharpened. He drew his sword and pressed it against Sia's throat. You dare commit such treason, trying to usurp the throne? Because the empire fell into chaos. As a princess, I could not just stand by and watch. In the emperor's eyes, however, this was just an excuse. Sia remained completely unfazed. Father, you must be exhausted after fighting for so long. Why not take this chance to abdicate the throne and get some proper rest? The ministers' faces turned pale with terror. They never expected the princess to demand the emperor's abdication on the spot. But the emperor dismissed it as nonsense and sheathed his sword. Get out of my sight. Immediately, Sia gave an elegant bow and turned to leave, as if that intense confrontation had never happened. That night, Sia stared at the moon, unable to sleep. During the confrontation with the emperor earlier that day, her magic had nearly spiraled out of control for some reason. Fearing Sia was upset, Bella tried to comfort her, but Sia didn't mind at all. She had lived like this for the past 9 years. This was nothing in comparison. Relieved, Bella suggested, telling Sia an interesting story. Have you heard the legend of the Night Witch? Sia was momentarily speechless. The protagonist of the story was her past self. Legend says the Night Witch lives on the moon. If you pray sincerely on a night with a full moon, she will grant your wish. So don't worry, Your Highness. I will pray for you every full moon, so she can help your dreams come true. A blonde woman was seen praying to the Night Witch. Please give me someone who looks just like him. Sia jolted awake. It was just a dream, but the details were already fading. She kept ruminating on it, even while eating. Feeling somewhat unsettled, Bella stepped in to soothe her. Seeing her concerned gaze, Sia felt that instead of overthinking things here, they should go out together. She took Bella through a portal to the busiest street in town. Since it's a rare outing, Bella suddenly realized she forgot her money. Don't worry, I brought some. Sia pulled out a large bag of gold coins. This was what she took from the treasury. After solving that kidnapping case, you can't expect her to work for free, right? For 9 years. It must have been hard being cooped up in the palace. Let's have some real fun today. The two arrived at a most luxurious shop. Sia pulled something out and flashed it. The clerk's attitudes shifted instantly. They gave her top-tier VIP service. Bella whispered, what was that? The royal emblem from father's armor. Sia had intentionally pried it off. I can't wait to see the look on his face when he finds out. The two went on a shopping spree, happily spending the entire day. Send the bill to the palace. Deliver everything to the princess's palace. The next day, the emperor stared at a yard-long bill in dead silence. According to Siddharth's report, for some reason, the imperial treasury was short several gold coins. The royal emblem on his armor was also missing. There were over 20 barriers around the treasury. Yet Sia could come and go freely and take the money. The emperor realized this girl was something else. Just then, Bella arrived to announce that the princess invited him for afternoon tea. The emperor refused immediately. Siddharth was about to say something, only to find the emperor had vanished by a scenic lakeshore. The emperor appeared with a look of utter confusion. Clearly, he had been teleported. The weather is lovely today, isn't it? The emperor turned around to see Sia casually sipping tea alone. Since you declined my tea invitation, I had no choice but to bring the picnic to you. The emperor looked at Sia, displeased. What exactly are you up to? It seems you aren't used to sitting on the ground. Sia raised her hand and used her magic. A second later, they were sitting across from each other at a table. Is that better now? The emperor glared at her, his tone icy. Why don't you just leave? With your abilities, you easily could. You know staying here won't change a thing. This is my home. Where else would I go? Aren't you afraid I'll kill you? Sia laughed. You don't actually think you're capable of killing me, do you? I'm not staying here out of a sense of duty, and certainly not for your pathetic, fatherly love. I'm just tired of living every day like the Walking Dead, and tired of the same repetitive routine. You've lived like this for 9 years, and it will stay that way. I find my current life quite entertaining. I have no desire to go back to the way things were. The emperor's gaze darkened, but Sia didn't give him a chance to retort. She used her magic to teleport him away instantly. Silence returned to the lakeshore. Sia looked down at her palm. She was certain that whenever she got close to him, her magic would spiral out of control. She felt a faint unease. You should have killed me long ago. Now, I'll have to make the first move. At a meeting that day, ministers suggested it was time for a coming-of-age ceremony. The ceremony is a crucial debut for the children of the nobility. Traditionally, it must be held at the age of 16. Due to the emperor's absence in the war, it hadn't been held for 3 years. Many children had come of age without ever making their social debut. Most importantly, the ministers wanted to use this opportunity to announce Princess Sia's existence to the world. The emperor pondered for a moment, then actually agreed to the proposal. When Bella broke the news to Sia, there were only 2 weeks left before the event. Sia was indifferent toward it, but Bella took it very seriously. To her, this meant the emperor finally recognized Sia as the princess. With time short and much to do, Bella immediately set to work. From measuring and tailoring the gown to mastering banquet etiquette, the most vital part was learning court dances. Sia practiced daily under a tutor, but lacking a natural gift for dance, she struggled. Through Bella's constant encouragement, she eventually mastered the basic steps. But a thorny issue remained. Who would be her dance partner? Usually, a noblewoman's partner is her father or a male relative. After being secluded for 9 years, Sia's only choice was the emperor, but she knew very well that man would never agree to be her partner. Their relationship wasn't one for peaceful dancing. Sia was somewhat arrogant. If I'd known dancing, without even a partner, why bother learning to dance? Moonlight fell on the girl's peaceful, sleeping eyes. She was having that dream again. Great witch, please, grant me a child. I want this child to look just like him. I hope he loves this child as much as he loves me. Let us all find happiness. Sia murmured unconsciously in her dream. The Witch of the Night will grant your wish. When Sia woke up, her head felt heavy and groggy. Once again, she couldn't remember the details of the dream. Rubbing her sleepy eyes, she touched her cheeks in confusion. She hadn't slept long, so why was her face so puffy? Suddenly, she heard Bella's startled cry. A second later, Sia was pulled into a tight embrace by Bella. Looking at the tearful Bella, Sia was completely baffled. Your Highness, you've been unconscious for 10 days. Sia was stunned. Wait, what's going on? This unexplained deep sleep had given Bella quite a scare. Fortunately, there was nothing wrong with Sia's body, and she hadn't missed her coming-of-age ceremony. Just then, a familiar figure came dashing towards Sia. It was her magic teacher, Debbie Yin. The moment they met, he began incessantly inviting Sia to visit the magic tower. Sia refused immediately, without a second thought. She knew that if she went, she'd be pestered to solve all sorts of magical puzzles. But Debbie Yin wouldn't give up. Princess, aren't you even a little curious? Don't you want to see what kind of magic your people are learning? But my coming-of-age ceremony is the day after tomorrow. It's just a quick visit. And if you could help me look at a magic circle, that'd be even better. That successfully piqued Sia's interest. She took Debian's hand, and a teleportation circle instantly expanded around them. In the blink of an eye, they were inside the magic tower. Seeing Sia appear so suddenly, everyone was stunned. It took them a moment to react. Her Highness had actually graced them with her presence. The mages looked on with anticipation, thinking Sia was there to help solve their problems. However, Debbie Yin bid them a lingering, apologetic farewell. As Sia made her way to the highest point of the magic tower, it was a room cluttered with miscellaneous items. But what caught Sia's eye were the drawings covering the walls. There were teleportation scrolls. Due to their extreme difficulty, these teleportation circles had to be preserved on scrolls. Sia pointed to a peculiar-looking scroll and asked, "What's this?" This one leads to the dragon's lair. Because the magic radius is so vast, it requires special storage. Have you ever been there? Debbie Yin shook his head repeatedly. It's too dangerous. They say no one who goes there ever comes back alive. But Sia knew better. The dragon there had long since fallen into a deep slumber. Just then, a mage with hair like a bird's nest walked over. His name was Raven, and he was the one who had drawn this scroll. Raven absent-mindedly tried to take the scroll down, but accidentally got it stuck to his sleeve, which was covered in a residue of super-strength adhesive potion. He tried to pull it off, but ended up tearing the entire scroll. Instantly, the magic circle activated, teleporting them straight to the dragon's lair. Even the other mages were packed up and sent along with them. Seeing this, the crowd began to wail in despair. They were all dead for sure. Sia, however, calmly looked around and began walking deeper into the lair. If you all want to go back, follow me. Luckily, Sia had been here a few times in her past life. As long as they passed the trials set by the dragon, they could leave this place. She told everyone to follow her footsteps closely and to be extremely careful. Debbie Yin leaned in to speak with Sia, but noticed her gaze sharpen. She suddenly grabbed Debian's collar and yanked him back, just as a sharp blade grazed his scalp. The blade buried itself deep into the wall. Debian's legs turned to jelly from pure terror. He chased after Sia, wailing and begging for protection. The group arrived in a vast, empty chamber. In the center stood a massive stone statue of a dragon. Sia examined the statue. Everything was exactly as it had been in her past life. Suddenly, the entire structure began to shake violently. The statue's giant maw slowly creaked open. Lethal energy began to condense within its throat. It was dragon breath. She had to take it head-on to overcome it, and, in that moment, only Sia was capable of facing it. Sia stared down the statue, but the second the breath fired, someone tackled her to the ground. Before Sia could even process what happened, she heard Debian's voice, filled with furious concern. "Princess, what were you thinking? Why didn't you dodge? That was dragon breath. What if you'd been hurt? What then? You nearly scared me to death." Watching Debbie Yin ramble on and on, Sia was dazed. Despite his harsh tone, her heart felt a sudden warmth. The group finally managed to make it back to the palace. Seeing the two of them covered in dust and grime, Bella was worried sick. Sia reassured her with a nonchalant wave, while shooting a fierce glare at Debbie Yin. Mention the word dragon even once, and you're dead. Debbie Yin had no choice but to say they'd only visited the magic tower. As Bella rushed to prepare medicine and clean clothes, Debbie Yin leaned down to wipe the dirt off Sia's shoes. His movements were gentle and focused. Watching the man before her, an idea suddenly struck Sia. "Debbie Yin, would you like to accompany me to my coming-of-age ceremony?" Debbie Yin froze for a moment. Then, he elegantly reached out his hand. "It would be my honor, princess." But Debbie Yin still had his reservations. "This is your first banquet. Is it really okay to attend with someone like me? Are you afraid the emperor will target you?" "How could I be? It's just that you don't realize." As it turned out, the mages of the magic tower were seen as outcasts in the eyes of the world. Even if they achieved high status or great success, people would only flatter them to their faces, while looking down on them behind their backs. Debbie Yin worried that being associated with him would ruin Sia's reputation. This sudden show of concern touched Sia's heart. "Everyone already knows that I'm the imprisoned princess. Why care about petty gossip?" She looked Debbie Yin straight in the eye. "All you need to know is that you're the one I chose. That's enough. Debbie Yin beamed with a bright smile again. But I'm not very good at dancing. It's okay. I'll teach you right now. Soon, the day of the coming-of-age ceremony arrived. Looking at Sia, all dressed up, the maids couldn't help but marvel. Her Highness looks just like a delicate porcelain doll. Bella and Debbie Yin were already waiting by the carriage. The sight of Sia left them both breathless. Your Highness, you look absolutely stunning today. Sia was surprised to see the lavish royal carriage. How could her dear emperor father be this generous? Bella acted as if it were nothing. To make sure her little princess made a grand entrance, she would pull every string possible. Sia happily boarded the carriage. Thank you, Bella. I'll be back soon. Soon, Sia and Debbie Yin arrived at the ballroom. When the guests saw Sia, they began to whisper, "Is that the princess who was confined for 9 years? It seems the emperor still hasn't forgotten Empress Cecilia's death." Sia headed upstairs, where the emperor was already waiting. The moment he laid eyes on her, the emperor was reminded of his late wife and the happy moments they once shared. Sia was also a bit surprised. She didn't think the emperor would actually show up. Father and daughter stood together in silence. This was Sia's first time appearing in public as a princess. The young princess's first royal ball. But things took a sudden, unexpected turn. After a loud explosion, the entire palace shook. This is bad. We have intruders. Rewind to a few minutes earlier. Just as Sia made her appearance with the emperor, he turned and left without looking back. He didn't spare her even a single glance. Sia didn't mind. She had long grown accustomed to this cold treatment. Debbie Yin stepped forward and took Sia's hand. They moved to the center of the dance floor, ready to waltz, when disaster struck. The glass skylight above the ballroom shattered, and a group of masked men burst through the windows. A thick mist instantly filled the entire hall. Screams erupted one after another as the guests fled in a panic. The scene descended into utter chaos. Sia ordered Debbie Yin to evacuate the crowd while she scanned the surroundings for movement. Just then, she noticed a girl hiding in a corner. She rushed forward to lead the girl to safety, but her path was blocked by a sudden masked attacker. Sia raised her hand, intending to finish him with magic, but her palm remained lifeless. What's happening? My magic, it's gone. Sia could only watch helplessly as the masked man lunged at her. A sharp blade pierced through a body, and blood splattered across Sia's face. It was a knight arriving just in time to take down the assassin. Your Highness, are you all right? Sia didn't show a trace of fear. She scanned the hall, confirming that several more attackers were still lurking. Sia snatched the sword from the knight's hand, gripping it with both hands. Blade pointed down. This time, it had to work. The moment the tip struck the floor, an ice-blue magic circle bloomed like a flower. A frigid surge of magic swept through the room, freezing the attackers into sparkling ice statues. The crisis was temporarily averted. Only then did Sia remember Debbie Yin. The guests had all safely evacuated, but he was collapsed on the ground, unconscious. Sia sighed helplessly at the sleeping man. Even the emperor had pulled a disappearing act. Even now, you're the only one thinking about saving others. She used her magic to heal Debian's wounds, though her mind was clouded with suspicion. With the palace in such utter chaos, what on earth was the emperor doing? Just then, Settert rushed in, looking frantic. Princess, His Majesty, something has happened. Seeing the emperor equally unconscious, Sia was momentarily speechless. The doctor explained that the emperor had been struck by dark magic during his final military campaign. It was a miracle he had held on for this long. So, when will he wake up? But the doctor couldn't give a definitive answer. Seeing the dark look on Sia's face, the doctor fell to his knees, pleading, "I will do everything in my power to save him." Settert then informed Sia that Lady Kira, from the illegal auction house, had escaped from the dungeon. Based on the evidence left behind, she had likely escaped with the help of the intruders. Settert hesitated before speaking. "If His Majesty remains comatose, you must be the one to handle state affairs." Sia gave a mocking smirk. "And if he wakes up, won't he just think I'm staging a coup to steal his throne?" Settert was left completely tongue-tied. To bypass the palace guards, storm the ballroom without warning, and precisely break out a high-profile prisoner. "It seems we have a mole in the palace," Sia ordered Settert to round up all those involved immediately, especially Lady Kira. However, days of searching yielded no results. Kira was spreading false leads everywhere, sending the palace guards on wild goose chases. That woman is far too cunning. Sia felt a wave of exhaustion. Why was she the only one doing the work, while the emperor just lay there, fast asleep? But her most pressing issue was still her magic. Sia decided to take this chance to investigate why her powers were spiraling out of control. She slipped into the emperor's bedroom, gesturing for the maids to keep quiet. She approached him, reaching out to test. Her magic remained unstable, fluctuating wildly, and difficult to control. Sia reached out, trying to find the root of the problem. To the maids, however, it looked like the princess had buried the hatchet, tenderly caring for her comatose father. It was a deeply moving sight, but Sia's research yielded no clues. Suddenly, the emperor's eyelashes fluttered. Sia yanked her hand back instantly and turned to leave without a second glance. She didn't want him getting the wrong idea. Later, Settert reported to the emperor regarding the attack on the ball. The princess had already ordered the fugitives' arrest, and the hunt for Kira was still underway. "It seems we have a mole in the palace." The exact same words. Settert couldn't help but think that moments like these were the only times they felt like father and daughter. Continue the investigation as the princess instructed. Meanwhile, at a secret hideout, Lady Kira finally showed her face. Her eyes were filled with pure greed. Sooner or later, This country will be in the palm of my hand. After her debut at the ball, the once imprisoned little princess received a tea party invitation from the Duke's daughter, Elizabeth. Bella was even more excited than Sia. Her princess was finally going to have a playmate. With Bella's encouragement, Sia agreed to attend, but first, she wanted some fresh air in the garden. The rose garden was the most romantic spot in the palace, with a sweet floral scent lingering in the air. Bella was a bit nervous. What if they ran into the emperor? After all, she was still terrified of his cold fish face. Sia, however, didn't care. She told Bella about a teleportation circle the emperor had personally set, with a rose-patterned border. The emperor certainly has unique taste. Sia left Bella to wander the garden and stepped into the teleportation circle. The scene before her left Sia frozen in her tracks. The always arrogant emperor was actually leaning against a tree, fast asleep. This was a rare sight indeed. Sia stepped closer to observe him quietly. It turns out he wasn't always that cold-blooded killer. Sia reached out to brush away a petal that had fallen on his face. In that instant, the emperor's eyes snapped open. Sia felt a bit awkward. Nice weather today, isn't it, father? The emperor's brow furrowed. How did you get in here? Cracking this teleportation circle was easy for me. The emperor stood up abruptly, his gaze sharp as a blade. Who exactly are you? The sudden interrogation caught Sia off guard. I don't understand what you're talking about. Drop the act. Are you truly of royal blood? Or are you just something pretending to be? Sia's eyes instantly turned cold. You ask who I am, then I should ask what you are. I was the one who protected the people when the palace was attacked, not you. Tell me, your majesty, what were you doing then? I resolved every crisis that day, only to be met with such suspicion. Can an emperor who can't even protect his own subjects even be called an emperor anymore? Faced with Sia's relentless questioning, the emperor fell silent. Since you don't intend to answer, I'll take my leave. The emperor watched Sia's retreating figure, his thoughts drifting back to the day of the invasion. He had noticed the masked man preparing to ambush Sia. He was about to draw his sword and intervene, but he suddenly felt the violent backlash of dark magic. Blood surged from his mouth. His vision went black, and he collapsed. The next day, Sia arrived at the Duke's estate for the tea party as planned. As she stepped off the carriage, Lady Elizabeth, the Duke's daughter, bowed to her. Greetings, Your Highness. I am truly honored by your presence. Sia recognized her at a glance. Wasn't this the girl she had saved at the ball? Elizabeth excitedly gripped Sia's hand. Actually, today's tea party is my way of saying thank you. Your bravery against those thugs, and the way you used magic with such ease, it was just so cool. Watching Elizabeth showering her with such wild praise, Sia felt a bit embarrassed. Your Highness, how did you learn magic? I never really studied it. I just rely on instinct and experience. Seeing how curious Elizabeth was, Sia conjured a mana sphere directly in her hand. Then let me show you. With a light tap of her finger, the mana began to flow. Amidst the dazzling interplay of light and shadow, the two were instantly transported to a golden beach. Since we're already here, let's just have some fun today. Next, they arrived at a bustling marketplace. As a noble lady, Elizabeth rarely visited such places, so she was curious about everything she saw. They stopped at a stall selling ornaments. Elizabeth immediately recognized trinkets symbolizing the Night Witch. The vendor enthusiastically told them the stories of the Night Witch. Hearing everyone praise her past self, Sia's feelings were complicated. Meanwhile, Elizabeth happily bought one, planning to hang it in her room. The marketplace grew more and more crowded. The two struggled to navigate through the dense throng of people. Just as Sia was about to use magic to teleport back, she realized Elizabeth had suddenly vanished. At that moment, the lost girl was huddled in an alley, sobbing, terrified that she would never find her way home. That's when an old woman in a black cloak approached her. Oh, you poor, beautiful lady, come over here. With her guard completely down, Elizabeth walked over. The old woman pulled a small mirror from her pocket. This mirror would suit you perfectly. Only $2. The moment Elizabeth's eyes met the glass, her gaze instantly went blank. She began to mutter repeatedly, yes, it suits me perfectly. Seeing this, the old woman flashed a sinister grin, preparing to lead Elizabeth away. Right then, Sia suddenly appeared. She snatched the mirror, threw it down, and crushed it under her heel. Golden magic danced between her fingertips. What do you think you're doing to her? Inside a cafe, a shaken Elizabeth was still reeling from the fright. I almost thought I'd never see my parents again. Sia fed her a piece of cake to comfort her. Don't worry, it's over now. Elizabeth felt a wave of embarrassment. It seemed like she was always causing trouble for the princess. Sia, however, was preoccupied with what had just happened. That old woman, she reeked of powerful dark magic. Since when did so many dark mages lurk within the empire? Or was someone pulling the strings? I'll need to look into this thoroughly. As dusk approached, the two finally returned to the Duke's estate. The butler rushed over the moment he saw them. My lady, where have you been? We've been worried sick searching for you. The Duke approached and bowed to Sia. Sia offered an apologetic explanation, saying she had just taken Elizabeth out for a stroll and hadn't meant to cause them such worry. Elizabeth excitedly told the Duke all about everything she'd seen and done. I had so much fun today. Thank you, Your Highness. I hope to see you again soon. Sia boarded her carriage to return to the palace. She turned and saw the Duke and his daughter sharing a warm, happy moment. She paused for a second, a sudden pang of pain hitting her chest. A familiar voice echoed in her mind. I hope he can learn how to love. Through that child. I hope my child will be loved by everyone. Sia stood dazed for a moment, then boarded the carriage and departed. Meanwhile, in the palace of the Leventress kingdom, the young king, Cardell, was listening to his subordinate's report. He learned that the Eastern Empire's 9-year-old Princess Sia was actually a magical prodigy. Yet, that foolish emperor, blinded by his wife's death, had taken his anger out on her, treating his own daughter like a prisoner. Just then, a red-haired woman walked in. Cardell immediately rose to greet her. "Sister, you're finally back." It turns out Lady Kira, who had escaped prison, was actually the princess of the Leventress kingdom. The two raised their glasses in celebration. Kira's red lips curled into a dangerous smile. That emperor might have cheated death in the war, but dark magic has left his body. Incredibly fragile. We can use the friction between father and daughter to advance our plans. Their eyes gleamed with cold ambition. Soon, the Eastern Empire will be ours for the taking. Back at the palace, a maid burst into the emperor's office. "Your Majesty, this is terrible. The princess has been kidnapped." "Wait, let's go back to yesterday." Sia was bored out of her mind and wanted to go out. "Didn't you just get back from the beach, princess? Why don't you stay in and read a book today?" Sia sighed and flipped through a book, but something inside caught her eye. She pointed excitedly at an illustration and leaned toward Bella. "Bella, let's go fishing. I want to catch a giant octopus." Bella refused flat out. "Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. What if you get hurt?" But Sia just gave a sly smirk, instantly summoned a teleportation circle, and bolted. "I'll just be a minute. I'll be right back." Sia arrived at Lake Kraken in the Western Empire. The water was vast and calm, glistening under the sunlight. It looked like the perfect spot to catch an octopus. Sia channeled her mana, ready to make a move. Suddenly, the lake's surface erupted. Massive octopus tentacles burst from the water, thrashing wildly. "Lucky me. It's delivering itself right to me." With lightning-fast reflexes, Sia condensed her mana into chains. In the blink of an eye, the tentacles were firmly restrained. But then, her brow furrowed. She leaned in for a closer look. Traces of dark magic were actually radiating from the giant octopus. What psycho would poison a whole lake? Suddenly, Sia noticed. A young boy had appeared on the shore, out of nowhere. Relieved her actions hadn't caught him in the crossfire, Sia tossed the giant octopus in front of the boy. "This is for you. Don't go wandering near the lake again." With that, she vanished before his eyes. Back at the palace, Bella was pacing anxiously. A flash of golden light appeared, and the next second, Sia dropped right into her arms. "Princess, do you remember what you promised me?" Seeing that Bella was genuinely upset, Sia felt a pang of guilt. She promised never to sneak off alone again. "Next time, I'll definitely take you with me, Bella." Just then, a servant suddenly spoke up. "Your Highness, Lake Lena in the Leventress kingdom is a wonderful place." Sia glanced at the unfamiliar servant. Lake Lena has breathtaking scenery and a beautiful environment. Many nobles go fishing there. Under his glowing recommendation, Sia decided to go fishing there the following day. The next day, Sia transported Bella and the servant to the shores of Lake Lena. The servant began to gush, showering her with flattery. "Such incredible teleportation magic. Your Highness is truly amazing." Sia's lips curled into a smirk. She picked up her rod and prepared to fish. In no time, she had caught dozens of fish. The servant continued his relentless brown nosing, praising Princess Sia from every possible angle. "You really are the all-powerful genius. The rumors say you are. It's truly an honor to serve you from such a close distance." Sia stood dazed for a moment, then boarded the carriage and departed. Meanwhile, in the palace of the Leventress kingdom, the young king, Cardell, was listening to his subordinate's report. He learned that the Eastern Empire's 9-year-old Princess Sia was actually a magical prodigy. Yet, that foolish emperor, blinded by his wife's death, had taken his anger out on her, treating his own daughter like a prisoner. Just then, a red-haired woman walked in. Cardell immediately rose to greet her. "Sister, you're finally back." It turns out Lady Kira, who had escaped prison, was actually the princess of the Leventress kingdom. The two raised their glasses in celebration. Kira's red lips curled into a dangerous smile. That emperor might have cheated death in the war, but dark magic has left his body. Incredibly fragile. We can use the friction between father and daughter to advance our plans. Their eyes gleamed with cold ambition. Soon, the Eastern Empire will be ours for the taking. Back at the palace, a maid burst into the emperor's office. "Your Majesty, this is terrible. The princess has been kidnapped." "Wait, let's go back to yesterday." Sia was bored out of her mind and wanted to go out. "Didn't you just get back from the beach, princess? Why don't you stay in and read a book today?" Sia sighed and flipped through a book, but something inside caught her eye. She pointed excitedly at an illustration and leaned toward Bella. "Bella, let's go fishing. I want to catch a giant octopus." Bella refused flat out. "Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. What if you get hurt?" But Sia just gave a sly smirk, instantly summoned a teleportation circle, and bolted. "I'll just be a minute. I'll be right back." Sia arrived at Lake Kraken in the Western Empire. The water was vast and calm, glistening under the sunlight. It looked like the perfect spot to catch an octopus. Sia channeled her mana, ready to make a move. Suddenly, the lake's surface erupted. Massive octopus tentacles burst from the water, thrashing wildly. "Lucky me. It's delivering itself right to me." With lightning-fast reflexes, Sia condensed her mana into chains. In the blink of an eye, the tentacles were firmly restrained. But then, her brow furrowed. She leaned in for a closer look. Traces of dark magic were actually radiating from the giant octopus. What psycho would poison a whole lake? Suddenly, Sia noticed. A young boy had appeared on the shore, out of nowhere. Relieved her actions hadn't caught him in the crossfire, Sia tossed the giant octopus in front of the boy. "This is for you. Don't go wandering near the lake again." With that, she vanished before his eyes. Back at the palace, Bella was pacing anxiously. A flash of golden light appeared, and the next second, Sia dropped right into her arms. "Princess, do you remember what you promised me?" Seeing that Bella was genuinely upset, Sia felt a pang of guilt. She promised never to sneak off alone again. "Next time, I'll definitely take you with me, Bella." Just then, a servant suddenly spoke up. "Your Highness, Lake Lena in the Laventris Kingdom is a wonderful place." Sia glanced at the unfamiliar servant. Lake Lena has breathtaking scenery and a beautiful environment. Many nobles go fishing there. Under his glowing recommendation, Sia decided to go fishing there the following day. The next day, Sia transported Bella and the servant to the shores of Lake Lena. The servant began to gush, showering her with flattery. "Such incredible teleportation magic. Your Highness is truly amazing." Sia's lips curled into a smirk. She picked up her rod and prepared to fish. In no time, she had caught dozens of fish. The servant continued his relentless brown-nosing, praising Princess Sia from every possible angle. "You really are the all-powerful genius. The rumors say you are. It's truly an honor to serve you from such a close distance." Cater let out a piercing, mocking laugh. "Your father really doesn't care about you at all, does he? He abandoned you just like that." But in the next split second, he was slammed hard against the wall by a surge of magic. Sia, who had already broken free from her restraints, glared at him with eyes as cold as ice. "Is something funny?" It turned out this was all part of Cater's scheme. Lusting after Sia's immense magical power, he intentionally drove a wedge between her and the Emperor's already fragile relationship. Sheila also added fuel to the fire from the sidelines. "You don't actually consider that Emperor as your family, do you? He doesn't care about you at all. Does he really deserve such loyalty? Someone who ignores his own biological daughter isn't worth wasting your feelings on. You should abandon him and join our kingdom. I'll even bring your maid along. She's the one you truly consider family, isn't she?" Hearing those words, Sia, who had been resisting, showed a flicker of hesitation. Meanwhile, back in the Eastern Empire, the situation was completely different from what Sia saw. The Emperor hadn't done anything at all, yet the magic orb shattered on its own. He immediately realized this was Cater's trickery. Chaos broke out in the council chamber. Some ministers argued that they must deploy troops to rescue the princess immediately. Others claimed the princess was powerful enough to handle it on her own very soon. Arguments flared up back and forth. After a moment of silence, the Emperor ordered his army to mobilize. Inside the castle of the Laventris Kingdom, Sia, dressed in a black gown, entered the dining hall. She immediately spotted two people she didn't want to see. After learning they were siblings, Sia became certain that on the day of her coming-of-age ceremony, it was Cater who had sent invaders into the palace. Cater admitted it quite candidly. In the next instant, a dining knife flew toward the siblings, pinning itself straight into the wall behind them. Cater was about to snap when he was stopped by Sheila. "Princess, please try to understand. My brother only did what he had to do to save me." Sia sneered. "You look quite happy about it, having such a reliable brother. And you, the newest member about to join our family." "Of course, I'm thrilled. Then how do you explain the illegal distribution of dark magic into the Empire? Planting dark mages everywhere, the kidnappings of children, and those illegal slave auctions? How do you explain all that?" Sia listed their crimes, emphasizing every single word. Sheila remained unfazed. "As long as you cooperate with us, none of that will happen again. So, what exactly do you want from me? We'll tell you once our plans are ready." Sia stood up to leave. "Then I'll look forward to it." Bella's consciousness began to fade. She had suddenly fainted while reporting to the Emperor. Through the haze, she heard Sia calling, "Bella, wake up." Bella snapped her eyes open. She saw Sia looking down at her with a face full of worry. She threw her arms around Sia. She was finally reunited with her little princess. "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" After learning that Sia was perfectly fine, Bella finally felt at ease. She looked around, realizing she was in a completely unfamiliar room. Sia told her they were in the kingdom of Laventris, and that they would be staying there for a while. "Bella, if you don't want to stay, you can go back." "Your Highness, I will stay with you wherever you go. Even if it's an enemy nation, it doesn't matter." But Bella was still a little concerned. She feared the enemy king would mistreat Sia. "Don't worry. If things go wrong, I'll just kill him." The Emperor leaned back in his chair, exhausted. His earlier plan to mobilize the army had met with heavy backlash from many ministers. The war had just ended, and the troops hadn't yet recovered. Furthermore, the enemy king wielded dark magic. Marching blindly into battle would surely put the army in grave danger. "Fine, then I'll go alone." And the other ministers launched yet another round of protests. But under the Emperor's intimidating gaze, the voices of opposition slowly died down. The Emperor had a throbbing headache. He knew Sia wasn't an ordinary child, nor was she the type to sit idly by and be manipulated. Still, he couldn't help but worry. Just then, a maid brought in afternoon tea. The Emperor had barely taken a sip when a massive amount of blood suddenly erupted from his mouth. Seidel panicked instantly. He was about to run for a doctor, but was held back by the Emperor's iron grip. That day, the siblings sought out Sia again, telling her that everything was set. It was finally time for Sia to play her part. Cater pulled a vial of potion from his robe. Sia recognized it instantly. It was the same forbidden drug she saw at the auction. "I've already made your father drink this." Sia froze. She knew exactly how terrifying this drug was. For someone whose body had been corrupted by dark magic, it was nothing short of a lethal poison. Even if he were lucky enough to survive, both his body and soul would be severely damaged. The Emperor's body was already frail due to the dark magic's erosion. Now, having consumed this forbidden drug, his life hung by a thread. But Sia had one question. How could he possibly drink such a thing willingly? Of course it wasn't willing. This is all thanks to the spies I planted within the palace. Our people spend a great deal of time drawing a teleportation circle in the Emperor's bedroom. Since he won't die that easily, we're going to teleport him here shortly. Cater's eyes gleamed with a cruel excitement. And you only need to do one thing. Kill him. Are you asking me to commit patricide? To commit such a heinous crime? It's not like he ever loved you anyway. So what if you kill him? At that moment, the door was suddenly flung open. Your Highness, you absolutely cannot. It was Bella. She rushed in, heedless of the consequences. Your Highness, no matter how much you hate His Majesty, he is still your father. If you go through with this, even if you take the throne, your soul will never find peace. Bella desperately tried to reason with Sia. She could not let Sia commit such a foolish, heartless act of betrayal. A flash of violence crossed Cater's eyes. How dare Amir made interfere in her master's business? He delivered a brutal backhand to Bella's face, sending her crashing hard to the floor. Seeing her most cherished family member harmed, Sia's pupils narrowed sharply. You actually dared to lay a hand on her? That's what she gets for being a busybody. In the next heartbeat, golden mana erupted from Sia like a violent, surging tide. Her voice was bone-chillingly cold. You really took me for a helpless child, didn't you? To think you'd touch what's mine. Cater and Sheila's faces went pale, faced with Sia's overwhelming magical pressure. Despite their frantic resistance, an invisible force seized them by their throats. Cater was in disbelief. Was he really going to die like this? With a deafening boom of magical energy, the siblings collapsed to the ground like limp rags. Sia pulled Bella into her arms, using her magic to heal her wounds. I'm so sorry I let you get hurt like this. The Emperor awoke from his stupor, his head throbbing. In his dazed state, he realized his palace had long been riddled with enemy spies. As he struggled to stand, the moment he touched the floor, the teleportation circle was triggered. When he opened his eyes, he was in a cold, unfamiliar dungeon, his hands bound in chains. Sia stood quietly beside him. She spoke softly, did you know? If I were just an ordinary child, I would be a cold corpse by now. If you truly despised my existence that much, you should have just strangled me the day I was born. I understand the grief and the rage of losing the person you loved, but you cannot lay all that blame on me. Faced with Sia's accusations, the Emperor remained silent. After a long silence, he spoke slowly, I never wanted a child. Those heartless words shattered Sia's last shred of hope. She reached out and choked the Emperor. It's not like I ever expected your love anyway. Even if I once did, I certainly don't anymore. Sia let go. She picked up a sword from the floor and pointed it at him. Tears fell silently down her face. I have my answer. Now, disappear from my sight forever. In that exact moment, the world around them suddenly shifted. The grim dungeon vanished, replaced by a bustling, lively market. People were laughing and cheering, full of joy, celebrating the wedding of the Emperor and Empress. Sia had somehow returned to the day her parents wed. They held each other and kissed, exchanging eternal vows before all who watched. As the scene shifted again, the Emperor led the Empress to a rose garden. It was a surprise he had prepared for his beloved. Open your eyes, Cecilia. Before her stood a massive tree in full bloom with roses. Sia recognized it immediately. This was the Emperor's secret sanctuary. At that moment, they were immersed in unparalleled happiness. But the joy was short-lived. The Empress was diagnosed as infertile. The Emperor didn't care. I don't need a child. Having you is enough for me. But the Empress longed to be a mother. Every night, she prayed to the moon, witch of the night. Please grant me a child. I know that His Majesty secretly yearns for a child too. I want our family to be whole and happy. In that instant, every detail of Sia's past and present lives flooded back to her. She finally understood why she held enough magic to destroy a nation, yet could never bring herself to strike the Emperor. The Empress had once prayed for her, hoping that her child would become the most beloved child in the world. The Night Witch, who had always been alone, was touched by this humble wish. She, too, wanted to feel what it was like to be loved, so she cast a forbidden spell upon herself and was reborn as the Empress's child. But reality was the exact opposite. Instead of the affection she craved, she was kept imprisoned for 9 long years. It wasn't until news of the Emperor's death in battle arrived that her magic finally returned. Yet, the shackles of the spell remained. She couldn't bring the Emperor the slightest harm. That was why every time she tried to get close to him, her magic would spiral out of control. The scene shifted once more, this time to the day Sia was born. The Empress lay clinging to life after the delivery. The Emperor trembled as he pleaded, Cecilia, I don't want the child. I only want you. Please, don't leave me. The Empress shook her head weakly. Your Majesty, stop rejecting our child. Please, promise me you'll love her. In his desperation, the Emperor suddenly remembered that within the dark forest of the Western Empire, there grew a herb that could cure any ailment. Cecilia, wait for me. I will find it and save you, no matter what. Sia watched all of this in silence. The Empress sensed Sia's presence and slowly turned her gaze toward her. Sia was stunned. The Empress could actually see her. Do you regret the wish you made? The 10 months I carried you were the happiest moments of my life. Her eyes were brimming with love as she looked at Sia. If you aren't happy with the life you have now, then go and live a life of your own. The magic that had bound Sia for so long vanished completely at that moment. Inside the imperial palace, Sia lay unconscious in her bed. The emperor was baffled. He was clearly the one whose heart was pierced. So why was Sia the one who collapsed? Facing the child his wife had given her life for, he couldn't bring himself to give her his full love, yet he found it hard to truly hate her. He could only keep Sia confined within the palace, visiting her only on occasion. Back then, Sia was still an innocent and adorable little girl. But after the 3-year war ended, when he saw Sia again, the emperor felt that everything had changed. The look in Sia's eyes was so cold, hardly that of a 9-year-old child. The emperor felt she didn't view him as a father at all. But it wasn't until Sia pointed her sword at him in tears that he realized she had actually been yearning to love him all along. When exactly will she wake up? The emperor interrogated the doctor, his voice thick with anxiety. But the doctor couldn't find the cause of her illness. Losing his cool, he was about to draw his sword to finish the doctor off. But Seidel stopped him just in time. Your Majesty, you cannot do this. He is already the most skilled physician in the empire. If you kill him, no one will be left to save the princess. Then what could be the reason? Could it be dark magic? But Debian found no traces of dark magic anywhere. While everyone was at their wits' end, the emperor suddenly issued an order. Summon all mages to draw a teleportation circle. I am going to the dark forest of the Western Empire to find the herb that can cure all ailments. However, right after he left, Sia finally woke up. Debian and the doctor were moved to tears. Their lives were finally spared. As it turned out, before leaving, the emperor had said that if Sia hadn't woken up by the time he returned, it would be off with their heads. Sia was beyond speechless. Why had the emperor suddenly started caring about her so much? Was there something wrong with him that she didn't see? Sia's awakening brought great excitement. They told her that to save her, the emperor had ventured into the dark forest for a mythical herb. But a flicker of unease rose in Sia's heart. The emperor and the mage Raven used the teleportation circle to reach the dark forest. The emperor told Raven to wait there, while he ventured in alone to search for the herb. Legend says the forest is crawling with magical beasts, guarded by the forest protectors. 9 years ago, due to the interference of a mysterious power, he had returned empty-handed. The forest was shrouded in silence. Before long, 3 magical beasts had quietly emerged, right behind the emperor. As the empire's greatest sword saint, his blade and spiritual power were lethal. In the blink of an eye, he took down one of the beasts. But the emperor had no desire for a prolonged fight. He only wanted to find the herb as quickly as possible. He bolted toward the heart of the forest. Finally, a massive ancient tree came into view. The herb that could cure any illness was swaying right there on a branch. But just as his fingertips were about to touch it, a vine suddenly lashed out at him. The emperor focused his gaze. Countless vines erupted from the ground, attacking him in relentless waves. The emperor swung his sword continuously, severing it. But more snake-like branches lunged from the shadows. Seizing his chance in an all-out gamble, he leaped and thrust his sword toward the ancient tree, only to be violently repelled by a barrier. At that very moment, the entire forest began to feel twisted and wrong. The emperor sensed the danger. That tree was off limits. Touching it meant death. Realizing the situation was dire, the emperor decided to retreat. The vines pursuing him had turned a bizarre, eerie shade of blood red. In that heart-pounding moment, Raven activated the teleportation magic and returned to the palace. Sia was calmly sipping soup when the emperor and Raven suddenly appeared beside her. Seeing his daughter finally awake, the emperor could hardly contain his excitement. Just then, a massive explosion thundered outside the palace, shaking the entire building to its core. Sia gave the room a calm, sweeping glance before turning to the emperor. You didn't touch the world tree in the dark forest, did you? But seeing the guilty look on his face, Sia knew they were doomed. A colossal bolt of lightning struck down. The maids screamed and huddled together in terror. Sia told the emperor to evacuate everyone immediately and warned him not to show his face under any circumstances. The words had barely left her lips when the palace came under attack. The sky turned dark and gloomy. Clouds hung so low they seemed ready to crush the earth. A dark-haired youth hovered in midair. It was Kazan, the guardian of the forest. You caused such a mess and actually think you can run? Sia unleashed her magic, expanding a massive shield to protect those in the palace, drawing on centuries of shared history. Kazan recognized Sia as the Night Witch instantly, yet he made no effort to hide his lethal intent. Do you have any idea what kind of idiocy that guy pulled? He tried to drive a sword into the world tree. At those words, Sia was momentarily stunned. She looked at the emperor, who had caused this catastrophe. It wouldn't even surprise her if the whole place was leveled today. Kazan was fuming. I'm here to settle the score with him today. Don't even think about protecting him. But Sia couldn't just stand by while everyone in the palace suffered for it. She deliberately changed the subject to provoke Kazan, successfully diverting his attention away from the emperor and onto herself. Once the evacuation was complete, Sia rose into the sky, focusing all her strength. She first conjured a massive sphere of golden mana and hurled it at Kazan without mercy. A blinding golden light pierced through the darkness. Sia descended slowly. That's enough, Kazan. But in the next second, several bolts of dark magic shot toward Sia at high speed. Sia countered quickly, but the onslaught grew more violent, slowly overwhelming her defenses. The surroundings were once again engulfed in thick fog. Sia scanned the area warily. Where did he go? Suddenly, her pupils shrank. Kazan had blinked directly behind her, his blade swinging down with lethal speed. Fortunately, Sia dodged just in time, losing only a few strands of her long, silver hair. You'd better not let me catch you. That depends on whether you're capable of it. Kazan gathered a ball of dark magic in his hand, poised and ready. Let's see you handle this. Just as Sia prepared to meet the strike, a tall figure suddenly threw himself in front of her. It was the Emperor. Sia was momentarily frozen in shock, but Kazan's attack didn't stop. In the next second, the Emperor collapsed to the ground, his face twisted in agony. His injured arm turned a bizarre, dark shade of purple. The fight between Sia and Kazan came to a dead halt. Watching the frantic attendants rush forward, Kazan merely scoffed at them. What a fuss over nothing. Before he could finish, Sia cut him off with a fierce glare. Sia stared at the ground in silence, though she hated to admit it. The way the Emperor had just stepped up to protect her had deeply shaken her heart. The Emperor's body, already weakened by the erosion of dark magic, was now reeling from Kazan's lethal blow. It looked like he was at death's door. Because of his state, even standing right beside him, Sia's magic no longer spiraled out of control. Looking at the Emperor gasping for his final breaths in pain, Sia knew very well that the only ones who could save him were Kazan and herself. She entered the drawing room. Kazan, who just moments ago was ready to fight to the death, was now lounging comfortably on the sofa. The Emperor's arm is practically rotting away. What do you plan to do about it? Seeing Sia's silence, he raised an eyebrow playfully. What? You don't want to save him? Sia was beyond frustrated. She couldn't forget the unfair treatment she had endured over those 9 years. But the dying man was, after all, her father. Don't worry about me. I still have a score to settle with you regarding your contract with the King of Levantris. Do you have any idea how much trouble he's caused me? Well, didn't you already kill him? Now, what are you going to do? Are you just going to leave the Emperor to die? He's only human. He won't last much longer. Pressed by Kazan's urgency, Sia stormed out of the room. She shot him a sharp glare before leaving. Why do you have such a terrible personality? Kazan watched her back as she walked away. An unreadable smile played on Kazan's face. This damn Emperor is lucky. He actually has a daughter who can save his life. The cold-hearted ruler who had ignored his daughter for years had, in the split second before the lethal dark magic struck, thrown himself in front of Sia without a moment's hesitation, staring at her unconscious father, broken by his wounds. Sia felt an indescribable storm of frustration brewing inside her. After a long internal struggle, she finally decided to have a serious heart-to-heart with him. Sia entered the Emperor's bedroom with a cold expression, dismissing all the doctors and attendants. Looking at the Emperor's arm, ravaged by dark magic, she let out a helpless sigh. Gathering her mana, she placed her palm on the Emperor's forehead. As the energy flowed, the Emperor's eyes snapped open. Sia cut straight to the point, demanding to know why he had protected her. You should know that an attack like that couldn't possibly hurt me. Just because you won't be injured doesn't mean it won't hurt. Sia's lips curled into a mocking smile. What a foolish choice. So, now that you're on the verge of death, do you regret taking that blow for me? The Emperor fell into a long silence. I do regret it. Sia turned her head away with a cold sneer. I regret imprisoning you in that palace. I was wrong, the Emperor said, covering his face in agony. So please, don't leave me like your mother did. If I lose you too, I don't know how I could bear to go on. This sudden outpouring of emotion caught Sia completely off guard. She hurriedly masked her shaken expression. I won't forgive you. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. Then keep atoning for your sins. I want you to live with this guilt for the rest of your life. Sia reached out and touched the Emperor's wounded arm, her fingertips glowing with a brilliant golden light. Lost time can never be recovered, and what has happened will never vanish. I won't let you off that easily. I will become the Empress, and I will seize your power with my own hands. Everything precious that you own will soon belong to me. This is my will and my vow. The Emperor gazed into Sia's determined eyes. Suddenly, he proposed taking her somewhere. They arrived at the palace's royal treasury, filled with priceless artifacts and treasures. Suddenly, a photograph caught Sia's attention. In the picture, the Emperor was holding her tightly as a newborn. Sia let out a cold laugh. Are you trying to pull a cheap trick to move me? No. Didn't you say you'd never forgive me? I will spend the rest of my life atoning to you. But the throne is another matter. They stopped before the crown, the symbol of imperial power. The Emperor told her, I won't name you the crown princess, nor will I officially designate an heir. Meaning, as long as one has the ability, anyone could take this seat. This was exactly what Sia wanted. She didn't need the Emperor's handouts. She would earn everything on her own. The Emperor picked up the crown. You'll have to take this from my head yourself. Sia gave a confident, predatory smile. I certainly will. Soon, Sia's birthday arrived. She and Bella slipped out of the palace, ready to enjoy the night market to the fullest. I heard, His Majesty is preparing a grand banquet for you. But Sia brushed it off. She pointed to a play poster on the wall and asked Bella, wasn't this what you wanted to see? Yes. It's a romantic story about lovers reuniting after hundreds of years. They watched the play, ate great food, and had a blast. As the night deepened, the market lights flickered on one by one. Bella led Sia to a small mask stall and placed a kitty mask on her. Why a cat? Because cats suit you perfectly. The familiar dialogue gave Sia a sudden sense of déjà vu. In a fragment of memory, a masked man chuckled softly while putting the same kitty mask on her. They were walking side by side through the streets. Sia snapped back to reality. Was that my own memory just now? Fireworks began to bloom across the night sky. Bella excitedly pulled her through the crowd, but Sia kept looking back. She felt a gaze lingering on her, a gaze far more burning than any firework. Winters passed, and flowers withered and bloomed again. Before she knew it, 9 years had slipped away. Sia had grown into a stunningly graceful young woman. A week before the emperor's birthday, a young maid asked her, "Your Highness, will there be no banquet again this time?" Sia wasn't sure herself. After all, even when they shared dinner, there was almost zero communication between them. When asked if she had a gift ready, Sia suddenly realized she hadn't prepared anything. That day, she went out with Lady Elizabeth from the Duke's estate. She picked out a brooch at a jewelry store as a birthday present for the emperor. During their chat, Elizabeth talked about a sweet trip with her fiancé, her face beaming with happiness. She also invited Sia to visit the Duke's estate whenever she was free. "He gave me flowers, which I used to decorate my room. They really are exceptionally beautiful. All right, I'll pay a visit." Noticing Sia's indifferent expression, Elizabeth was curious about her plans. "Your Highness, have you considered marriage? You've reached the age where you should be engaged." Sia simply gave a faint smile. "I'm not looking to consider that just yet." "Stop, thief." Suddenly, a commotion erupted behind them. A man clutching a bag was sprinting straight toward them. As the man drew closer, Sia quickly pulled Elizabeth behind her. Mana flickered at her fingertips, silently coiling around the man. In the next second, he was hurled 100 meters into the air, landing on the ground with a sickening thud. Sia retrieved the bag and returned it to its owner. She told Elizabeth to head back first. "I'll hand this guy over to the guards. And while I'm at it, I'll check on their daily performance." At dinner, the emperor unusually took the initiative to speak. "I heard there was a disturbance on Central Avenue today." Sia calmly replied, "Yes, it's no big deal." The emperor sighed helplessly. "When are you going out? Can you take a guard with you? Do you really think a guard can protect me?" Sia's retort left the emperor speechless. The emperor then asked Sia if she had fired Baijan, the head of the security team. "I did," she replied firmly. "He embezzled funds allocated to the security team by the imperial family. I couldn't just kill him, so I fired him instead." Sia stared coldly at the emperor. "Do you think that as a princess, I have no right to dismiss an official?" "Of course not." The emperor immediately denied. "I'm sure you had your reasons." The emperor informed Sia that the Saida Empire's delegation would arrive in 6 days. It happens to be right before his birthday, so a celebration banquet will be held to welcome the delegation. Furthermore, the crown prince of the Saida Empire will also be visiting. In a carriage far away, a young man curled his lips into a pleasant smile. He was full of anticipation for the upcoming meeting. "I'll finally get to see her." That night, as soon as Sia returned to her room, she saw her maid, Bella, cleaning. Many years had passed, and time had left its mark on Bella's face. Sia urged Bella not to work so hard. "There are more maids now. You should just focus on resting." But Bella always wanted to do something for Sia. Sia teased her, "You spend all your time on me. Don't you want to get married? At my age? Why would I get married? On the other hand, Your Highness, is there someone you like?" "Not at all." Tomorrow was the day the crown prince of the Saida Empire would lead his delegation. Sia took a rare interest in learning about him beforehand. Because Crown Prince Adrian was born to a maid, he suffered from bullying during his childhood. However, he excelled in the selection exams at age 10, defeating his brothers to take the title of Crown Prince. From an unloved, illegitimate child to the Crown Prince, this man seems rather interesting. On the day the delegation arrived, the emperor and princess sat high on their thrones, watching Adrian approach slowly in his formal attire. Sia studied the man with blue hair and silver eyes. He looks nothing like the emperor of Saida. Meanwhile, Adrian's gaze remained fixed on Sia the entire time, which she found quite baffling. Adrian bowed to the emperor and presented a gift for His Majesty's birthday. After a brief conversation between both sides, the emperor dismissed them to rest. But Adrian suddenly interrupted him. "Your Majesty, the Saida Empire has a proposal for your kingdom." The emperor frowned, and Adrian turned his gaze towards Sia once again. "Honorable princess, we hope you will consider studying at the academy in the Saida Empire." Inside the hall, Sia rejected the offer with a look of annoyance. "Why should I go there? I'm not going." The ministers opposite her took turns trying to persuade her. "Your Highness, this is a great opportunity to strengthen ties between our nations. After all, we haven't had formal exchanges in 20 years. Besides, the Saida Empire Academy is top tier. You would certainly learn a lot there." But Sia remained unwilling. Then, the Duke stepped forward. "Your Highness, as of now, you haven't had a chance to demonstrate your diplomatic prowess. In the past, it was just other kingdoms flattering us, not true bilateral exchange. Just as you proved your abilities 9 years ago, why not view this enrollment as a diplomatic challenge?" Sia stared at the Duke in silence. Suddenly, she gave a sly smile. "I refuse." With that, she used magic to teleport away, leaving the ministers looking at each other in bewilderment. Everyone turned to the emperor for help. But the emperor was also preparing to leave. "The princess will decide this for herself." At the bustling welcome banquet, Sia hid in a corner alone, sipping her wine. A young nobleman approached her to strike up a conversation. "Your Highness, may I have the honor of this dance?" With an apologetic look, Sia explained she had sprained her ankle and couldn't dance. The man had no choice but to leave in disappointment. Unexpectedly, Fabian suddenly appeared, angrily demanding to know when Sia had sprained her ankle. Sia looked indifferent. "What's the big deal? Can't I just turn people down politely?" Fabian grew even more upset. "Why did you reject him? Do you plan to keep a 40-year-old like me around forever? As your father?" Not wanting to hear his nagging, Sia just took off and bolted. But she ran straight into Crown Prince Adrian. "Greetings, Your Highness." Sia gave a slight nod as a greeting and brushed right past him. Seeing this, Adrian suddenly called out to her, looking deeply hurt. "Princess, don't you remember me?" A soaking wet boy sat miserably by the lake. As the least favored child in the palace, Adrian had been bullied since he was a child. Because of his mother's lowly status, he was even seen as a disgrace to the royal family. To secure a future for himself and his mother, he ignored everyone's objections and entered the Crown Prince selection exam. The task of the exam was to find something that best showcased the emperor's prestige. But now, he could only stare at the lake, feeling helpless. A giant octopus lurking in the water watched him hungrily. One wrong move, and it would crush him instantly. If he couldn't win the selection, life would only become more difficult. Just as he was at his wit's end, a silver-haired girl appeared in midair. She channeled her magic and effortlessly subdued the giant octopus. Her calm and confident demeanor was so dazzling in the boy's eyes. Then, the giant octopus was tossed in front of Adrian. "This is for you. It's dangerous here. Don't come near the lake from now on." Sia disappeared as soon as she finished speaking. However, her image was deeply etched into Adrian's heart. In the blink of an eye, 9 years had passed. He finally saw the girl he had been longing for day and night. "Princess, don't you remember me?" Faced with Adrian's intense gaze, Sia looked completely clueless. Just as she was about to speak, she was interrupted by Baron Blanche. As an official accompanying Adrian on the visit, the Baron asked him to go handle some matters. After Adrian left, the Baron tried to strike up a chat with Sia. "Greetings, Your Highness. It's His Majesty the Emperor's birthday. I wonder if you've prepared a gift for him?" Of course, she replied. It was sent over before the banquet. But in reality, Sia had completely forgotten about it. Smugness was written all over the Baron's face. "I wonder what kind of precious gift you've sent. You might not know this yet, but our crown prince, a master of swordsmanship, personally hunted a wolf to present as a birthday gift to His Majesty." "Of course, Your Highness. Being a woman, I'm sure you couldn't possibly do such a thing." Sia, who had been politely humoring him, saw her gaze turn cold. But in an instant, she flashed a brilliant smile. "True, there's no better gift than a wolf's pelt. In that case, I'll go catch one too." The smile instantly froze on the Baron's face. With an elegant snap of her fingers, Sia vanished from the spot in a flash. This scene scared the daylights out of the Baron. He grabbed Adrian the moment he returned, stammering incoherently. "The princess, she just vanished into thin air." Before he could even finish his sentence, Sia reappeared. The carcass of a giant wolf lay right behind her. Amidst everyone's shocked stares, Sia looked at the Baron with a smug grin. "If you're giving a wolf, it should at least be this size." Sia felt deeply satisfied, seeing the Baron turn pale as a ghost. "How dare he act so arrogant in front of me? He's clearly out of his league." As the banquet ended, Adrian apologized to Sia for the Baron's reckless behavior. Sia decided not to hold a grudge. "So, princess, are you really not coming to the Side Empire?" Seeing Sia shake her head, his eyes filled with disappointment. "That's such a shame. I truly hoped you would come." Sia didn't understand why he was so persistent. Adrian took a deep breath, his moonlit eyes gazing at Sia. "Because I've liked you for a very long time. We crossed paths 9 years ago. It's okay if you don't remember, as long as I do." Watching Adrian's retreating figure, Sia's resolve began to waver. She found Kazan and asked him to accompany her to the Sida Empire Academy. Kazan asked her why. "I'm just a little curious." "Curious about what?" "About why he fell in love with me at first sight." "That's so cheesy." "Shut up." Soon, it was time for Adrian to return to his country. Sia and Sedert came to see him off. "His Majesty is tied up with official business, so please excuse his absence." Sia grumbled to herself. "Tied up with business? Please, he's probably just sitting in his office reading files." Adrian walked up to Sia. Just as she was about to offer some pleasantries, Adrian suddenly took her hand and planted a gentle kiss on it. "I look forward to the day we meet again." His gaze lingered on Sia, full of longing. "Stay well, Your Highness." In the office, the Emperor was looking at the application for the Sida Empire Academy. Suddenly, Sia flashed into the room and told the Emperor she was going there to study. The Emperor paused for a moment. "If it's because of the minister's pressure, you don't have to listen to them. Besides, our ties with the Sida Empire aren't that deep. It's perfectly fine if you don't go. It's not because of them. I want to go for myself." The Emperor fell silent for a beat. Then his lips curled into a knowing smile. "I see." Sia urged him to stamp her enrollment application. The Emperor suddenly brought up Adrian. "So, are you going there because of that Crown Prince?" "Excuse me?" "Nothing." As agreed, Kazan transformed into an adult man to accompany Sia to the academy. They also brought 2 maids to look after them. Soon, it was time to say goodbye. The mages of Moto were devastated to see Sia and Kazan leave. Without the support of these 2, how will our magic research continue? As a longtime friend, Fabian also came to see Sia off. "Safe travels, Your Highness." Sia teased him to work hard and not to slack off just because she was leaving. Bella was the one most heartbroken. For the first time in 18 years, she would be apart from Sia for so long. Her eyes were filled with sorrow and worry. Sia took her hands and comforted her gently. "I'll write back every day." Bella told Sia to take care of her health and eat on time. "You take care of yourself too, Bella. Don't be sad because you miss me." Their emotional farewell made Kazan impatient. "You guys talk way too much." With a snap of his fingers, the group vanished instantly. Inside the Saida Empire Academy, a woman's angry shouting caused quite a stir. Sia was pinning Kazan to the ground, pummeling him. "You idiot. Who told you to teleport us? Couldn't you see I was saying goodbye to Bella?" After much coaxing from the maids, Sia finally stopped. A maid handed Kazan a bag. "Lord Kazan, it's time for you to take the entrance exam." "Why just me? Doesn't she have to take it too?" Sia looked at him smugly. "Because the Saida royal family already handled my enrollment paperwork." Kazan gave Sia a disgruntled look and picked himself up off the ground, clearly annoyed. Seeing Sia shake her head, his eyes filled with disappointment. "That's such a shame. I truly hoped you would come." Sia didn't understand why he was so persistent. Adrian took a deep breath, his moonlit eyes gazing at Sia. "Because I've liked you for a very long time. We crossed paths 9 years ago. It's okay if you don't remember, as long as I do." Watching Adrian's retreating figure, Sia's resolve began to waver. She found Kazan and asked him to accompany her to the Saida Empire Academy. Kazan asked her why. "I'm just a little curious." "Curious about what?" "About why he fell in love with me at first sight." "That's so cheesy." "Shut up." Soon, it was time for Adrian to return to his country. Sia and Sedert came to see him off. "His Majesty is tied up with official business, so please excuse his absence." Sia grumbled to herself. "Tied up with business? Please, he's probably just sitting in his office reading files." Adrian walked up to Sia. Just as she was about to offer some pleasantries, Adrian suddenly took her hand and planted a gentle kiss on it. "I look forward to the day we meet again." His gaze lingered on Sia, full of longing. "Stay well, Your Highness." In the office, the Emperor was looking at the application for the Saida Empire Academy. Suddenly, Sia flashed into the room and told the Emperor she was going there to study. The Emperor paused for a moment. "If it's because of the minister's pressure, you don't have to listen to them. Besides, our ties with the Saida Empire aren't that deep. It's perfectly fine if you don't go. It's not because of them. I want to go for myself." The Emperor fell silent for a beat. Then his lips curled into a knowing smile. "I see." Sia urged him to stamp her enrollment application. The Emperor suddenly brought up Adrian. "So, are you going there because of that Crown Prince?" "Excuse me? Nothing." As agreed, Kazan transformed into an adult man to accompany Sia to the academy. They also brought 2 maids to look after them. Soon, it was time to say goodbye. The mages of Moto were devastated to see Sia and Kazan leave. Without the support of these 2, how will our magic research continue? As a longtime friend, Fabian also came to see Sia off. "Safe travels, Your Highness." Sia teased him to work hard and not to slack off just because she was leaving. Bella was the one most heartbroken. For the first time in 18 years, she would be apart from Sia for so long. Her eyes were filled with sorrow and worry. Sia took her hands and comforted her gently. "I'll write back every day." Bella told Sia to take care of her health and eat on time. "You take care of yourself too, Bella. Don't be sad because you miss me." Their emotional farewell made Kazan impatient. "You guys talk way too much." With a snap of his fingers, the group vanished instantly. Inside the Saida Empire Academy, a woman's angry shouting caused quite a stir. Sia was pinning Kazan to the ground, pummeling him. "You idiot. Who told you to teleport us? Couldn't you see I was saying goodbye to Bella?" After much coaxing from the maids, Sia finally stopped. A maid handed Kazan a bag. "Lord Kazan, it's time for you to take the entrance exam." "Why just me? Doesn't she have to take it too?" Sia looked at him smugly. "Because the Saida royal family already handled my enrollment paperwork." Kazan gave Sia a disgruntled look and picked himself up off the ground, clearly annoyed. In the academy cafeteria, students were gathered in small groups for dinner. But there are always some malicious scumbags looking for trouble. 2 creepy guys deliberately approached a new female student, harassing her with lewd comments that left her visibly annoyed. One creep even reached out with his filthy hand, throwing an arm around her shoulder and suggesting they go have some fun. Utterly disgusted, the girl grabbed a glass of water from the table and splashed it right in his face. But seeing the man's twisted, furious expression, she began to feel afraid, enraged, and humiliated. The creep raised his hand to slap her. Just then, a hand clamped onto his wrist, like an iron vise. As he started to turn his head, the next second, Sia slammed him face first into the floor. He was knocked out cold instantly. The move was seamless, so cool and effortless that the girl's heart immediately skipped a beat. Her name was Daisy, daughter of Earl Nathans. Having been saved, she showered Sia with gratitude. "Without your help, Your Highness, I can't imagine what would have happened." Sia smiled and waved it off, saying she had just chased away a few punks. But Daisy was dead serious. "If it weren't for you, my eyes would have been permanently scarred by those creeps, perhaps never to recover." She gazed at Sia with burning intensity. Even her cowlick curled into the shape of a heart. "Today, you made me realize how shallow I was to be obsessed only with pretty boys. Your starlit silver hair, your cold yet soulful pink eyes, and your courage to stand up for others. You're so cool, my heart is racing out of control." My heart, which once only loved handsome men, is feeling so overwhelmed for the first time. Realizing she was oversharing, Daisy quickly stepped back and bowed in apology. "I'm so sorry, Your Highness. I got carried away in Daisy's eyes, having already fallen head over heels. She was seeing Sia through a permanent rose-colored filter. Every single expression of Sia's struck her heart like a thunderbolt. She felt like if she stayed any longer, she'd pass out from lack of oxygen. Your Highness, if you ever need me, please call for me at any time. I would go through hell and high water for you. With that, she blushed deeply and bolted away. Sia watched her leave. Suddenly, someone called out to her. It was Crown Prince Adrian. Just moments before, Adrian, serving as the student council president, was still tied up with work. Erica, the vice president, was staying late with him. Lady Erica, thank you for staying with me. Erica gave a bashful smile. As the vice president, wherever the president is, that is where I'll be. Seeing that it was getting late, the two prepared to head out. Erica wanted to ask Adrian to dinner, but she received no response even after calling him twice. Adrian's thoughts had already drifted out the window. Erica followed his gaze outside, seeing Sia chatting with Daisy. Her expression instantly soured. Only then did Adrian snap back to reality, asking what she had just said. Oh, it's nothing important. Erica forced a smile, but her nails were digging into her palms. Adrian excused himself, claiming an urgent matter. Erica stared coldly out the window, her eyes filled with sheer hatred. The princess of Dongda is truly insufferable. As soon as Adrian saw Sia, he apologized, explaining he'd been so busy that he hadn't found time to visit. Sia nodded, showing she understood. Adrian felt a twinge of disappointment. He thought that after his confession, Sia might act a bit warmer toward him. He hadn't expected her to remain so polite and distant. To bridge the gap, Adrian made a request. The day of the ball arrived quickly. Every student was dressed to the nines, hoping to make a grand impression. ISA searched the banquet hall several times, but couldn't find any sign of Sia. Sia, likewise, was nowhere to be seen. In a quiet, secluded corner, a man silently slipped out of the banquet hall. He headed to the library, picked up a book, and began to study intently. This looks pretty difficult. Suddenly, a strand of silver hair brushed over his shoulder. The man turned his head, his blue eyes reflecting the girl's stunning figure. Sia was leaning over, looking at the book in his hands. She then looked him straight in the eye. You seem quite bright. Unexpectedly, the man suddenly snapped out of it and scrambled to his feet in a panic. And no, that's not it. While frantically denying it, he fled from the library. Sia stood there dazed, watching his frantic retreat. An involuntary smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. He's actually kind of cute. Sia sat in the library out of sheer boredom, waiting for the orientation ball to finally end. A few days ago, the crown prince had invited her to dance at the ball, but Sia had turned him down flat. She had no interest in attending such an event. Boring, hypocritical, and exhausting. However, right at that moment, ISA suddenly found her. ISA's eyes lit up. Your Highness, so this is where you were. Without a word, she grabbed Sia's hand. Everyone is waiting for you in the hall. Reluctantly, Sia ended up at the ball after all. The moment she appeared, she was swarmed by excited girls. Sia flashed her practiced, standard smile, but on the inside, she was groaning. What if I run into the crown prince? I already rejected him. Showing up now might lead to an unnecessary misunderstanding. Just then, Erica appeared in her finest attire. She approached with a few girls in tow, taking it upon herself to introduce them to Sia. This is Lady Francis. She's studying magicology, just like you. So, Your Highness, if there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask Lady Francis for help. Erica looked at Sia with a smug grin. However, Sia's attention was captured by someone else, staring at a familiar figure in the crowd. Is that the person from the library? It wasn't until ISA nudged her that Sia snapped back to reality. Oh, sorry. What did you just say? ISA quietly repeated Erica's words. Sia gave a slight nod. Thank you for your concern. Don't mention it. It's the least I could do. But a split second later, Sia's smile vanished. But I don't have anything I need to ask others about. Faced with Sia's blunt rejection, Erica's smile froze on her face. Suddenly, the crowd began to stir. It's the crown prince. The moment he appeared, he drew every girl's eyes in the room. Erica quickly fixed her expression to greet him, only to see him walk straight towards Sia. He bowed elegantly and reached out. Your Highness, may I have this dance? Sia felt a bit awkward, but since she was representing her country's image, she eventually placed her hand in his. As the melodious music began, the two shared a graceful dance in the center of the hall. Sia lowered her voice. I thought I made it clear that I was declining your invitation. The crown prince replied calmly. And yet, you showed up at the gala anyway. So I took a bold chance and asked again. Am I making things difficult for you? Not necessarily. Sia noticed Erica watching from the side, her eyes green with envy and hatred. Just then, that man passed right by Sia. When he caught sight of the silver-haired girl, his eyes widened in shock. That girl? So, she's actually the princess of the Dongda Empire. After the gala ended, Erica's clique gathered together. Ugh, that's Sia. That princess of Dongda is way out of line. She actually snatched the crown prince's first dance. In past years, his dance partner has always been Our Lady Erica. Listening to her friends complain on her behalf, Erica gracefully set down her cup. Everyone, please calm down. I'm sure the crown prince had no choice. After all, she is the princess of Dongda. I completely understand. The girls were instantly won over by Erica's generosity. Lady Erica, You're truly too kind to still be able to smile at a time like this. But we can't let her keep acting so arrogant. We need to teach her a lesson, jog her memory a bit. How about we make a fool of her in public? Suddenly, Erica's expression turned serious. Miss Stan, you haven't been with us for very long, so you might not understand how we do things. We cannot abandon our dignity and pride as noble ladies over such trivial matters. Seeing Erica's reaction, Miss Stan quickly apologized. However, you do have a point. She definitely needs to be put in her place, lest anyone else get the wrong idea about my position. On a bright, sunny afternoon, Sia was sitting on the rooftop, enjoying some downtime. Compared to her previous life, filled with thrill and danger, this peaceful life was simply wonderful. Through the swaying shadows of the trees, Sia suddenly noticed a familiar figure. It was the man from the library. He was still focused intently on the book in his hands, feeling the sunlight suddenly blocked. The man looked up. Sia was already standing right in front of him. The girl's sudden appearance and bright smile startled the man, leaving him flustered. How did you just appear out of nowhere? It was the same way at the library last time. Sia originally thought he was just shy, but it seemed his passion for knowledge was just as strong. Sia sat down beside him. Are you curious? Watching his serious expression, Sia laughed. First, tell me what you're reading, and then I'll tell you. Books about the Night Witch and such. The sudden answer caught Sia off guard. To think it was actually about her. Do you like her stories that much? Not particularly. I just find them interesting to read. Then let me tell you one that hasn't been recorded in any book. It's about how the legend began. A little girl believed the words of a passing gentleman and made a wish upon a full moon, hoping her father would recover soon. That prayer awakened the Night Witch from centuries of slumber, and she granted the child's wish. Sia snapped back from her distant memories. The moment she locked eyes with the man, she noticed an elusive emotion hidden in his gaze. Why are you looking at me like that? Your expression doesn't look like you're just telling a story. The reply startled Sia. I'm not the type of person who wears their heart on their sleeve. Besides, do you even know who I am? Hearing this, the man immediately stood and bowed to Sia. Forgive me for the late introduction, Your Highness. I am Rowan Ofer, a first-year political science student. I am Alicia, second year, magic studies. Just then, Rowan suddenly turned his head, staring intensely at a certain spot. It seemed like something had fallen. They followed the sound into the bushes, only to find a soaking wet sparrow lying on the ground. Both were a bit puzzled. It hadn't rained, and there was no water nearby. So why was the sparrow drenched? Rowan wanted to take it back to the dorm to dry it off. No need for all that trouble. A delicate golden light radiated from Sia's palm, gradually merging into the little sparrow's body. Water droplets lifted from the tips of its feathers. In the next second, the sparrow shook itself awake, full of energy. It flapped its wings and took off into the blue sky. As she watched the sparrow fly away, Sia suddenly felt someone's gaze on her. She turned around and met Rowan's hesitant gaze. Your Highness. The man suddenly leaned in closer. Sia could clearly see the faint glimmer in his deep blue eyes as Rowan's fingers brushed past her hair to brush away a fallen leaf. They both froze at the same time. Rowan's face instantly turned bright red. He hurriedly backed up 3 meters and bowed in apology. Because I saw a leaf fall on your head, so I took the liberty of reaching out. His stammering explanation struck Sia as both funny and confusing. What's the big deal? Why are you blushing all of a sudden? To break the awkwardness, Rowan quickly changed the subject. We should head back. However, after only a few steps, Sia sensed something. A jet of water suddenly shot toward Rowan. With lightning speed, Sia raised her hand and cast a barrier, blocking the attack. Stunned by the sudden turn of events, Rowan rushed to check Sia's hand. I'm fine. It's just water. Just then, a boy rushed over to apologize. I am so sorry. I was practicing water magic just now, and I lost control of the direction. So that's what happened. Sia pointed out the mistake in his practice. With water magic, it's best to channel mana in a gentle way. As she spoke, a shimmering blue water orb gathered in her hand, then transformed into a flowing ring of water circling them. Her exquisite control left them both in awe. After the student left, Rowan was still deep in shock. It's nothing. Any mage could do this. How is that possible? There's no way just anyone could do that. Rowan was curious. To what extent could Sia freely wield her mana? Seeing the thirst for knowledge in Rowan's eyes, Sia decided to give him a glimpse. Since you've asked so sincerely, I'll be merciful enough to show you. Rowan hesitated for a moment before finally reaching out his hand. The moment their fingertips touched, a flash of white light erupted. In the next second, they appeared right on the main street. Besides, Sia looked around definitely curiously. Be caught if it's not that different from the markets in the Eastern Empire. As for Rowan, since this was his first time teleporting, he was incredibly dizzy. Once he finally managed to steady himself, he suddenly realized something. Wait, you can teleport without a magic circle? That's because I'm exceptionally gifted. Sia raised an eyebrow with pride. At this point, Rowan's admiration for her reached its peak. In the entire empire, only you could wield such power. Sia scanned their surroundings and suddenly turned to Rowan with a question. Do you know where we are? I think I'm lost. Rowan was taken aback. You've never been here before? No, I never have time to just wander around. I see. Rowan looked around. and recognized the area as the slums near the academy. Just as Sia was excitedly about to explore, Rowan nervously stopped her. "Your Highness, maybe we should head back." "Why? I haven't even had a good look yet. But lunch break is almost over. If we're caught outside without permission, we'll both have points deducted." As a law-abiding model student, Rowan absolutely could not let that happen. Sia simply waved it off dismissively. "But it's too late to get back now anyway." "Then please, use your teleportation magic again." A mischievous glint flashed in Sia's eyes. She put on a serious face. "No one can use teleportation magic twice in a row. Even I can't do that." To her surprise, Rowan actually bought it. "I'm sorry. That was inconsiderate of me. Then our only choice is to dodge the guards." Saying this, he took her hand and pulled her toward the academy. The sudden contact startled Sia for a moment. Then, she let out a helpless smile. This guy is surprisingly cute when he's stunned. The two hid in the bushes near the main gate, watching the motionless guards. Looks like distracting them is out of the question. If only we knew their shift schedule. Sia raised her hand, weaving her consciousness into her mana. It spread from her fingertips and quickly drifted into the office. She found out the next shift change wasn't for 30 minutes. That's going to be cutting it too close. Just then, Sia sensed a familiar presence. It was Kazan, laughing and chatting with some girls. Sia tried to reach out to him for help, and Kazan immediately sensed her mana. He let out a smirk. In the next second, he deliberately messed with her spell. Her connection was instantly severed. Sia was gritting her teeth in frustration. Rowan asked concernedly, "What's wrong?" "I'm fine. Getting in through the front gate seems impossible now. Let's look elsewhere." They circled around to the academy's outer wall. Looking up at the wall, which was twice their height, they both let out a sigh. Scaling the wall isn't an option either. Sia was about to give up and use her magic to send Rowan back alone. Suddenly, Isha's voice came from inside the wall. "Your Highness, are you out there?" Sia was slightly taken aback. "Isha? How did you?" "Mr. Kazan told me to come over." "Do you want me to toss you a rope?" Before Sia could answer, a sharp shout came from behind them. "Who's there?" Sia reacted instantly. She grabbed Rowan's hand and bolted. Mana surged immediately. In a flash, they were back on the bench where they started. Rowan was left lightheaded by the sudden teleportation. When his vision finally cleared, he saw Sia's sheepish grin. It finally dawned on him. "So you can use teleportation magic. Then why did you just..." Before he could finish, Sia suddenly reached out and brushed his cheek. She plucked a leaf that had fallen in his hair. This simple gesture made Rowan freeze instantly. The only sound left in his ears was the rustling of leaves in the wind. Looking at his blushing face, Sia smiled even more brightly. "I had a great time today. Let's meet again sometime." On her very first day of class, the little princess had already dragged a classmate into skipping school and almost got caught red-handed. After finally rushing back to the classroom, Sia sat there daydreaming until someone suddenly sat down beside her. It was her study companion, Kazan. "So, did you have fun just now?" Seeing Kazan's smug, grinning face made Sia's blood boil. She replied with a fake, icy smile, "Thanks to you. It was absolutely wonderful." Kazan bragged with a triumphant look. "And to make you even happier." Sia's temper flared instantly. "That was your doing." "Correct. Wasn't it thrilling?" Sia fought the urge to punch him. "Are you actually asking for a death wish, you jerk?" Just then, Professor Patrick entered from magic studies, and Sia had to swallow her rage and start the lesson. However, she didn't get even a few minutes of peace before Kazan started causing trouble again. As Sia was listening to the lecture out of boredom, she suddenly felt someone poking her arm. She turned around to see a palm-sized doll waving at her. "Watch closely. I'll show you something interesting." The doll's button eyes suddenly emitted an eerie red light. In the next second, it actually fired a laser that almost burned through the desk. Startled, Sia snatched the doll and threw it across the room. Amidst Kazan's cry of alarm, the doll traced a perfect arc through the air and landed precisely at the professor's feet. Both of them froze in disbelief. The professor also noticed the little thing. He picked it up and examined it closely, then suddenly called out, "Mr. Kazan, come to my office for a moment." Watching Kazan being called away, Sia felt a surge of schadenfreude. "Serves you right. You should have known better." However, Kazan didn't look discouraged. Instead, a devious mission-accomplished smile played on his lips. This immediately put Sia on high alert. What's he smiling about? Rowan was standing at the entrance of the magic research lab, hesitating time and again. Just as he was about to knock, a voice asked, "What are you doing here?" The sudden sound made him jump. He became even more flustered when he saw it was Sia. I'm here to ask Professor Patrick a few questions." Sia raised an eyebrow. "You're a political science student. Why are you seeking help from a magic professor?" "It's because of the magic book I read recently. There were some things I didn't quite understand." Seeing him stammer, Sia felt a playful urge. "What do you want to know?" "I can tell you. I can give you a better explanation than the professor." But Rowan's eyes were darting around, and he kept beating around the bush. This started to annoy Sia. She grabbed Rowan's head with both hands, forcing him to look her in the eye. "Why do you keep avoiding my gaze?" Rowan's face instantly turned beet red. He stuttered as he tried to pull away. "Your Highness, please, let go." "No. Why have you been dodging me?" Right then, a cold voice suddenly interrupted. "Your Highness." Both of them turned around. The crown prince stood there, expressionless. Sia finally released her grip. The crown prince walked straight to Sia's side. He stared coldly at Rowan with a hostile tone. "And who might you be?" Seeing the crown prince, Rowan immediately bowed. "Greetings, student council president. I am Rowan Ofer, a first-year political science student. You're in the same department. Do you not know him?" Hearing Sia's comment, the crown prince looked a bit awkward. "Oh, a junior then. My apologies. There are just so many people. I didn't recognize you." The atmosphere instantly fell into an awkward silence. Rowan seized the chance to take his leave. He fled at high speed amidst Sia's persistent questioning. "Man, he sure runs fast." The crown prince looked at Sia, his eyes filled with a sense of loneliness. Confused, Sia asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" "I'm feeling a bit jealous." Sia wondered if she had misheard him. She hadn't even done anything. What was he so jealous of? It made absolutely no sense. Faced with her questioning, the crown prince remained silent. In the middle of this standoff, Kazan walked out from Professor Patrick's research lab. "What are you two doing?" At the sight of Kazan, Sia looked as if she'd found her savior. She bolted toward him and vanished in a flash, leaving only the crown prince's lonely figure behind. The two sat on the academy's rooftop, enjoying the breeze. Kazan pulled a stack of documents from his coat. This was the data he had stolen from Professor Patrick's lab. As it turned out, years ago, after hearing that someone had returned from the dark forest alive, the Western Empire began researching the forest. As the guardian of the forest, Kazan's eyes flashed with a sharp, cold light. "These guys actually dare to set their eyes on my forest. So that's why you messed with Patrick on purpose? Is he the head of this research?" A flame ignited in Kazan's hand, instantly burning the research documents to a crisp. "I tested him to see if he could detect my dark magic, but it was truly disappointing." Seeing Kazan's resentful look, Sia mocked him without mercy. "You should just stick to guarding your forest. I honestly don't know who you let make it out of there alive anyway." Kazan's teeth were gritting in anger. "Don't you know? That person was your old man, the Emperor." "Oh wait, I forgot." Back in the lab, Patrick was going frantic. He was rummaging through the dark forest research files, but he couldn't find them anywhere. I'm doomed. Where on earth did they go?" "That was 2 years of my blood, sweat, and tears." Just then, Rowan knocked and entered. "Pardon the interruption, Professor." At the sight of a student, Patrick immediately put back on his friendly facade. "Hello, Professor. I am Rowan from political science." Upon hearing that Rowan was from another major, Patrick's expression soured instantly. "Professor, I'd like to ask a question. Is it possible to cast magic without a magic circle?" The fact that Sia had easily teleported him without a magic circle last time had been bugging him ever since. So, he wanted to get a straight answer. But Patrick thought Rowan was just being difficult. How could that be? "Are you joking with me?" Rowan tried to explain, but Patrick just shoved him away. "Just get out. I don't have time for your games. I'm incredibly busy right now." With that, he kicked him out. Rowan was deeply troubled. He clearly wasn't lying. So why wouldn't the professor believe him? Suddenly, a white speck of light approached. Magical energy instantly surrounded him. The next second, he vanished into thin air. When he reappeared, he was standing on the academy's rooftop. Sia and Kazan were right there with him. "Your Highness, was it you who brought me here?" "Yes, you were trying to ask that guy how to use magic without a magic circle, weren't you?" "Why are you calling the professor that guy?" Sia snapped. "Does it matter? Why didn't you just ask me directly, instead of being treated like that by him?" Rowan was momentarily tongue-tied. "Listen closely. Professor Patrick will come looking for you tomorrow. Just pretend you know nothing about today's question." Sia's face wore a mischievous look. "Why?" "Because that's the only way he'll come looking for me. He dared to lay a finger on my cat, and I'm not letting him off the hook." After losing the research on the dark forest, Patrick was frantic with worry. He decided to report the matter immediately, but overheard 2 students talking at a corner. "He really didn't use a magic circle? How is that even possible?" "It's the absolute truth. He just opened his palm and cast water magic just like that." The one speaking was the boy who had run into Sia earlier. Hearing their conversation, Patrick suddenly remembered the question Rowan asked yesterday. Is it possible to cast magic without a magic circle? Could he have been telling the truth? This might be an entirely new research direction. The next day, Patrick took the initiative to find Rowan. Dropping his impatient attitude from the day before, he kindly asked Rowan why he had asked that question. Rowan was secretly amazed. The princess was right. He remembered Sia's instructions perfectly. No matter how much Patrick pried, Rowan kept playing dumb. "I'm sorry, Professor. I was just asking on a whim. I really don't know anything else." Watching this, through her surveillance magic, Sia burst out laughing. That Rowan must be so frustrated with his own rudeness. He's probably about to stomp his feet. Just then, someone sat down beside her. It was Stan, a member of Erica's clique. "Long time no see, Your Highness. I haven't had a chance to talk to you since the ball." Sia gave a half-hearted smile, having absolutely no clue who this guy was. Then, the bell rang for class. Patrick arrived late and hurriedly began the lecture. "Today, we will be studying fire magic." He drew a magic circle on the blackboard, focused his mana, and a flame flickered in his palm. The students all followed suit. But many failed because their magic circles weren't drawn to standard. The flames all took different shapes. Sia watched these magic tricks, thinking they were nothing but child's play. Seeing this, Stan intentionally raised her voice. "Oh my, it seems Her Highness doesn't know how to start a fire. Why don't I teach you? You have to draw a magic circle first. Otherwise, you can't gather any mana." Before she could even finish, a flame suddenly erupted in Sia's palm. Stan's face went pale instantly. How is this possible? She clearly didn't draw a magic circle. Sia smirked and raised an eyebrow. With a flick of her finger, the flame shot into the air, bursting into a brilliant firework. The entire class gasped in collective shock. Magic isn't just about theory. You have to understand the flow of mana. Pretty simple, right? Miss Sia, you're truly incredible. To think you can transcend the laws of magic control. Patrick walked over to Sia, a glint of excitement in his eyes. I've finally found you, Miss Sia. Could we have a chat in my office? But Sia just stood up and headed for the door. Sorry, Professor, I already have plans. From that day on, everywhere Sia went, a suspicious figure followed her around. Sia intentionally gave him the cold shoulder, not even sparing him a single glance. Even Kazan couldn't take it anymore. How long are you going to keep him on a leash? Being watched all the time is getting really annoying. Ignore him. After how he treated my cat, he should have seen this coming. Hiding behind a tree, Patrick was dejected. How can I get Miss Sia to notice me? I can't even get a word in right now. Patrick was lost in thought, completely unaware of the sudden miracle behind him. With a loud thud, Patrick was slammed to the ground. The newcomer was none other than Sia's #1 fan, Daisy. Where did this creep come from? How dare you look at my princess? With such shady eyes. Noticing Sia looking over, Daisy immediately tried to take the credit. Your Highness, I caught the creep. Wasn't I amazing? Patrick struggled to get up with a huge bump on his head. I am not a creep. I am Professor Patrick. But Daisy's gaze remained judgmental. But Professor, why were you acting like such a creep toward the princess? I told you, I'm not a creep. Watching the two bicker, Sia and Kazan could only facepalm in exasperation. Everything was lost in chaos. Reluctantly, she finally agreed to meet with Professor Patrick. Patrick repeatedly explained he wasn't a creep. He only followed her because he wanted to ask a favor. The other day, I witnessed it firsthand. You cast fire magic without using a magic circle. I must know the principle behind it. After all, so far, no one but you has ever been able to do it. I hope Miss Sia can assist me with this research. A slight smirk curled at the corner of Sia's mouth. That's exactly what I was waiting for. She flashed her trademark sweet smile. Of course. I'm happy to be of help. Patrick was ecstatic. If the research succeeded, it would be a major discovery. That would shock the entire world. Sia's gaze turned cold. Enjoy your laughter while it lasts, because soon, it'll be wiped off your face. The next day, news of the professor personally inviting Sia to join his research spread throughout the entire academy. Hearing the students gossip, Rowan felt a lingering sense of unease. Why would Her Highness agree to his research? He couldn't wait to find out the truth. On the academy rooftop, Sia and Kazan were, as usual, watching the sunset and feeling the breeze. But Kazan suddenly asked her to stop the wind. Sia turned her head to look. Kazan was sporting some serious bedhead from the wind, staring back at her with a look of pure annoyance. Sia couldn't help but burst out laughing. You were already ugly, but now you're even worse. Kazan snapped back without hesitation. You think I don't know you made that wind on purpose? Are you caught up in some weird sentimental mood again? Just then, Sia noticed a familiar figure below. It was Rowan. He seemed to be looking for something. Sia snapped her fingers. In the next second, Rowan appeared before her, enveloped in magic. Looking for me? Is something up? Staring at the girl who appeared out of nowhere, Rowan was dazed for a moment. Once he snapped out of it, he cut straight to the chase. Why are you taking part in the professor's research? Sia blinked, having no intention of revealing her plan to him. I can't tell you just yet. She reached out and ruffled Rowan's hair, as if playing with a kitten. A sweet, innocent guy like you doesn't need to know. With the dark magic potion as a catalyst, I'll surely obtain power that can subvert magic itself. At that moment, Patrick was completely blinded by greed. He removed the protective cover of the sealing stone and opened the vial. Come to me. Give me ultimate power. The moment the black liquid dripped onto the stone, the golden stone turned pitch black instantly. Surging mana erupted like a violent storm. Thinking he had succeeded, Patrick's eyes were filled with wild euphoria, but he soon realized something was wrong. The released mana spiraled out of control. Darkness swallowed him like a tidal wave. In the dorm, Sia was chatting with Isha. When she suddenly sensed something was off, she stood up abruptly and looked out the window. A massive surge of dark magic was rapidly spreading through the academy. Sensing the danger, Sia immediately lunged toward Isha, shielding her in her arms. She deployed a barrier, blocking a violent explosion. But before Sia could even breathe a sigh of relief, she was stunned by the sight before her. A giant mass of mana appeared in the sky, red and black magic swirling relentlessly, churning until it blotted out the entire sky. Sia's expression turned grim. Such intense dark magic. Could Kazan be behind this? She told Isha to stay put, and teleported herself right next to the mana orb in an instant. That's when Sia noticed. The thing was actually siphoning her own mana. A dark shadow flashed by, and Kazan appeared by her side. They both barked at the same time. What did you do? Sia looked at Kazan suspiciously. Wait, so it wasn't you? Of course not. I thought it was your fault. But now isn't the time to point fingers. The mana mass kept devouring energy from its surroundings, growing larger by the second. Students were fleeing in pure terror. A golden magic orb condensed in Sia's hand. Fine then. Then let's just take it out. Kazan also condensed a dark magic orb, ready to finish it in one shot. But just then, Sia noticed something. She quickly stopped Kaizen's attack. Pointing to the center of the mana mass, she shouted, "Look, what's inside that thing?" Kaizen's face went pale. There's actually a person in there? It was none other than their old acquaintance, Professor Patrick. Sia sighed helplessly. Now we can't just destroy it. We'll have to seal it first. Before she could even finish her sentence, the massive mana orb suddenly split into countless small fragments, plunging in all directions at lightning speed. Sia thought to herself, this is bad. At this rate, it would spread across the entire continent. It had to be sealed immediately. But right at that moment, Kaizen suddenly clutched his face in pain. His gaze shifted abruptly. Something's wrong. The dark forest is being affected too. The forest mana is being rapidly devoured. I have to go back and check. Without waiting for Sia's response, he vanished in an instant. Sia's mind raced. Sealing the main mana mass wasn't the hard part. The real trouble was those small, split-off fragments. She needed to find every single one of their locations. They had to be located and sealed simultaneously to clear them for good. While Sia was overwhelmed with the situation, she spotted Rowan standing nearby, looking lost. She snapped her fingers, teleporting Rowan to her side. She barked at him. Why haven't you run yet? Sorry. I was just reading my book. Confirming Rowan wasn't hurt, Sia let out a sigh of relief. Rowan asked about the current situation. You must have seen that thing split up just now, right? I have to seal them all. But while I'm casting the seal, I need someone to provide me with the coordinates of these fragments. Normally, only Kaizen could do this, but he's gone now. After a brief silence, Rowan suddenly spoke up. Let me do it. Sia was taken aback, but Rowan's eyes were filled with determination. I can do this. Meanwhile, the Academy's director stared out the window, his face pale as death. Who on earth awakened the mana devourer? As it turned out, this mana mass was the byproduct of a failed ancestral experiment. It would devour all the world's mana, and could even lead to the end of the world. Just then, Crown Prince Adrian entered the office. He ordered the director to summon the magic professors immediately to discuss a counter-strategy. He rushed to the window, but froze in his tracks. A massive golden magic circle was appearing in the sky, unfolding at an incredible speed. Countless ancient runes swirled in the void. That dazzling golden light was reflected in Adrian's eyes. There, in the center of the circle, Sia and Rowan stood hand in hand, fighting the mana devourer together.